My name is James Carter. I'm 38 years old and I work nights. I wasn't always working nights. For the last few years, I've had a steady logistics job. Office stuff mostly. Paperwork, spreadsheets, scheduling routes for deliveries that never show up on time. It is not exciting, but it pays the basics. Or it used to. And then a few things came up. Unexpected bills, changes at home, and the regular paycheck didn't stretch far enough. I started looking for something extra to fill the gap. Night shift guard needed, it said. Reliable, calm, discreet, no experience required. It sounded weird, sure, but I was broke. I had a gas station hot dog in one hand and a cracked phone in the other. I clicked apply without even reading the full post. A man called me the next day. His name was Mr. Harrow. He didn't ask many questions, just my name, my driving record, and if I could start on Monday. I said yes. And that was 2 weeks ago. Now, every night, I drive 20 minutes out of town to an old shopping mall on the edge of nowhere. It's got that look. Half the stores are empty. The parking lot has weeds poking through the cracks, and only one wing still has working lights. Most people don't even know it's still open. During the day, a few stores stay running. A shoe place, a cell phone repair booth, some kind of church that rents out an old nail salon. At night, well, it's just me. And the mall. Now, I've never minded being alone. Even as a kid, I was the quiet one. I liked puzzles and books more than most people. I was never the guy to go out drinking or post photos of his lunch. I guess that's part of why this job fits me. Well, I get in around 10 p.m., clock in with a key card they gave me. They didn't give me a uniform, just said to dress dark and wear comfortable shoes. I park in the back lot, near the loading docks. The mall's main entrance is locked at night, but I use the side door near the dumpsters. Smells bad over there, like old meat, but I try not to breathe through my nose when I go in. I have a little office near the food court. There's a desk, a chair, a monitor with grainy camera feeds, and a locker where I keep snacks and a hoodie. I don't sit in there much, though. My job isn't to watch screens. My job is to walk. Every hour, I do a round. Check each open store. Make sure the security gates are down. Look inside the bigger ones, especially IKEA. People try to sneak in there sometimes, hoping to sleep in the motel rooms. I don't know why. One guy even tried to live in the fake kitchen. He lasted 3 days before anyone noticed. I didn't find him, though. That was before my time. My time? It's just starting. And the thing is, nobody warned me what this place really was. My first stop is always the cowboy shop. That's not the real name, but I've never seen the actual sign. Half the letters fell off years ago. Nobody's put them back. It's on the north end of the mall, near the old Sears, one of those themed stores that sold guns, knives, and camouflage gear. Fake deer heads on the wall, wooden floor, red bandanas on the racks. Inside, behind the counter, is Jesse. Jesse wears a duster coat, a real wide-brimmed hat, and boots with spurs that still jingle when he walks. He has a handlebar mustache and a crooked smile. His eyes are pale, almost colorless. They never blink. He always leans on the glass counter like he's been waiting 100 years for a drink that never came. "Evening, lawman," he says as I step inside. "I'm not a lawman," I reply. He tips his hat. "Could have fooled me. You walk like one." I walk like someone who hasn't slept in 3 days. Same difference. We have this routine. Every night he calls me a new name. Sheriff, deputy, tracker. Once he called me Marshal. I asked him what he thought I was marshalling, and he said, "What ain't you?" I walk up to the counter, tapping my flashlight once against my belt just to stay awake. I glance at the shelves, rifles on the walls, pistols in the glass case. Most of them look real. Some of them don't. One looks like it's made from melted bone. "Well, how's business?" I ask. Jesse shrugs. "Oh, same as always. Ain't had a customer in 30 years. Not a real one, anyway. Had a ghoul come in here last week, but he just licked the shotgun rack and wandered off." Sounds about right. He squints at me. "What brings you in tonight, James?" I do my rounds. "Yeah, but you always start with me." I don't answer right away. Instead, I look at the wall behind him, at a painting of a buffalo with glowing red eyes. I don't know if it's always looked like that, or if the painting changes when I'm not looking. Jesse taps the counter. "You still want to know how I died?" I sigh. "If you're ready to tell me the truth this time." "I'm always telling the truth," he replies. "No, you're not. Last week you said you got eaten by coyotes. The time before that, you said your wife poisoned your whiskey." "Both true, technically," he counters. "You don't even remember your real name." "I remember guns." He grins like that explains everything. I lean against the counter and look him in the eye. "All right. Why are you really here, Jesse? Why are any of you here?" He shrugs, his old duster creaking. "Well, your place don't let go easy. Some die and keep walking. Some die and forget they did. Me, well, I stuck around 'cause there's still bullets to polish and stories to tell. You, though, you ain't dead. Not yet." "No, I am not." "So why you working this graveyard shift in a mall full of ghouls and things with too many teeth?" I pause at that. I don't usually tell anyone, but Jesse isn't really a person anymore, and he has a way of making you talk. "Well, my daughter's in the hospital." His face goes still. Not surprised, just still. "She's got a rare condition, something genetic, I don't know. Doctors say it's manageable, but, the treatments, they're not covered. My logistics job during the day, pays okay, but it's not enough. This place, it offers me more money than I thought I'd see in one paycheck. So I said yes. Figured I can handle it. Nights are quiet." "Quiet, huh? Quiet like a loaded rifle sitting on a windowsill." Yeah, something like that." He nods slowly. "A kid, huh? I didn't know you had one." "Yeah, she's 6. Loves puzzles. Has this blue backpack shaped like a fox she takes everywhere." "What's her name?" "Chloe. Chloe's her name." He repeats it once, just a whisper. "Chloe." Then he leans down behind the counter, rummages around, and comes back with a wooden box. He opens it, and inside are 6 bullets. They glow faintly, but not like light bulbs or flashlights, more like moonlight through water. "These ain't for people," Jesse says. "What are they?" "They're ghost shells. They're for the kind of things that don't bleed right." Ghost shells, huh? You giving me haunted bullets now?" "Not haunted, just specialized." I pick one up. It's cold, not metal cold, more like the cold of a place where no one breathes. Will they even work in my gun? "They'll fit, and they'll work." Just don't use them on the wrong thing. These don't stop people. They stop the things that can't be stopped." "Why give them to me?" I ask. He stares at me, his eyes still and strange. "Because you got something worth coming back for. Most people here, they forget what they were holding on to. That makes them dangerous. But you still remember. That makes you dangerous too. But in a different way." I slide the bullets into my pocket. "Well, thanks." He tips his hat again. "Oh, it ain't nothing. Just a little insurance. You ever find yourself facing something that don't care what you are? You'll be glad you have 'em." I slide the ghost shells into the pouch on my belt, where I keep the extras. They clink against the regular rounds. Lighter, but not by much. Cold, but not in a way that matters right now. Jesse's not the worst to deal with. He is strange, but at least he's consistent. Always at the counter, always half smiling, always talking like a man half stuck in an old western that only he remembers. He doesn't lie, not exactly. He just forgets which version of the truth he's already told. I don't fully trust him, but I don't need to. He's never tried to hurt me, and that puts him ahead of half the things in this place. The gun shop door creaks when I push it open. Same sound every time. Next up is the ice cream stand. Always colder there than it should be. I find her crouched behind the ice cream cart. She isn't crying or calling for help, just sitting there on the floor with her knees hugged to her chest, face half buried in her arms. I wouldn't have noticed her if it weren't for the cone sitting on the counter. Mint chocolate chip, her favorite. The swirl hasn't melted a bit, which means she hasn't been gone long. I lean over the side of the cart and peek down behind it. "Hey," I say. She flinches but doesn't run. She looks up slowly. Her cheeks are pale, and her eyes are wide. The kind of wide that comes from thinking too much and not blinking. "Why are you hiding?" She tucks her chin back into her arms. "I'm scared." I lower myself into a crouch beside the cart. "Of what?" She doesn't answer right away. She glances past me, toward the escalators. Her fingers twist in the hem of her shirt. "There's a scary man in the boiler room." I study her. "You saw him?" She nods. "Well, what does he look like?" She shakes her head. "I don't want to say." And I don't push. All right, that's okay. We stay like that for a minute. Me crouched next to the stand, her curled into herself, both of us watching the far hallway. Eventually, I shift and sit with my back against the cart. You know, if there's a scary man in the boiler room, then I better go take care of him, huh? She looks up at me again. "You're not scared?" "I'm a little scared," I say. "Then why would you go?" "Because I have ghost shells." She gives me a confused look. "Yeah, look, I don't know about the ghost shells either, but I do actually have secret powers." She frowns. "Like what?" "Well, I can scoop the perfect ice cream cone, blindfolded." "That's not a power," she says. "It is in the mall. You want to see?" She hesitates, then nods. I stand and walk behind the counter. The scooper's already in the bin, waiting like it knows I'll need it. The container of mint chocolate chip is cold, but not frozen stiff. I scoop a clean, round ball into a cone and pass it down to her over the counter. She takes it with both hands and licks the side before it can drip. It's perfect, right? She grins.
Pretty good.
Pretty good? I ask. She nods again. I lean against the cart and watch her eat. Slower now, more relaxed. Her legs dangle under her, and she kicks them gently against the floor. No more hugging her knees. And she's not shaking anymore. Sometimes she's talkative, and sometimes she's quiet like tonight. When she's quiet, I don't press. Lily's been here longer than I have, and the only thing I know for sure is she never talks about her family or how she ended up stuck in this place. I stopped asking a long time ago. I know she died here. I saw the incident report one night when I was digging through old files in the back office. She's been sitting behind this stand ever since, never leaving the second floor. Talking to her is part of my route now. The way I see it, someone should be. Every night I ask her how she's doing, and most nights she answers with a shrug or a half smile. I don't think she knows how much I watch over her. I always swing by this level twice each shift, not once. Always walk past the fountain, even if I don't hear anything, even if she's not out front. Because some things in this place are dangerous, even to the dead. The boiler room is down past the loading docks, behind a door marked maintenance, authorized personnel only. The paint on the sign is faded, but the letters are still clear. You'd miss it if you weren't looking. It's tucked away between two service halls where the lights flicker more often than they stay on. I keep a flashlight in my belt, but I don't use it here. The bulbs overhead buzz sometimes, but they don't go out. Before I open the boiler room door, I check the line of salt. It runs straight across the threshold like a thin white rope, poured fresh every 2 nights. There's a little bag of Morton's coarse in the closet down the hall, one of the only things in this job that came with written instructions. Keep the salt line unbroken. Replace it every other shift. Don't sweep it with your foot. Use the flat edge of a clipboard or your hand. I kneel to check it. Still solid. I drag the back of my finger across the floor, just above it to feel for gaps. None. Good. I unlock the door and push it open. The heat hits first. It's not unbearable, but it is close. Smells like metal and old bricks, and something beneath that I've never been able to name. The room itself is long, with high ceilings and a network of pipes running in all directions like veins. The boiler in the center breathes slow and deep. The pilot light a dull red glow behind its grates. The room is always quiet. Machines hum, but the noise doesn't carry. He's here tonight. He always is. I don't see him right away, but I never do. He waits. I step forward and walk the usual path. 3 steps in, turn right past the water tanks, keep left around the big vent pipe. The floor is stained with dark smudges I've never been able to clean. They don't smell and they don't fade. I stopped worrying about them. And then there he is, Mr. Longneck. His head peeks out from behind a rusted pillar near the far wall. Just the top half of his face at first. Eyes wide open, skin smooth and gray like poured wax. He smiles when he sees me. Same smile every time. Lips curled back just a little too far. Teeth too clean. I don't speak anymore when I come in. I used to. My first week, I greeted him like you would anyone else. Hi. Hello there. He never responded. I kept talking for a while after that, just to fill the space. Jokes, short sentences, even questions. He never said anything, just watched. The second time I saw him, I thought he was standing in front of the pillar. I took a few steps closer, and the rest of his body didn't follow. Just his head, slowly snaking out, turning the corner. His neck came into view first. Thin, long, stretching out like a hose around the concrete column. Too long, no visible end. Just kept curving behind the boiler, his body never revealing itself. Still hasn't. I stopped trying to understand after that. Now, I come in, do what I need to do, and get out. Tonight, he shifts a little when I get closer to the boiler. His neck twitches like a cat adjusting its posture. I don't stop. I just keep walking. The clipboard in my hand has a checklist. Temperature, pressure, valves. I mark them all without looking directly at him. And he watches the whole time. The other dead avoid this room. They never come down here. Even the things that aren't ghosts, the ones that crawl or move through walls, steer clear of this place. He's not one of them. I don't know what he is. I've asked before, but no one ever tells me. All I know is he stays in the boiler room, and it's my job to make sure he keeps staying there. I move to the gauges. Everything's within normal range. Pressure steady. The dials shift now and then, but nothing jumps. That happened once. Sharp spike, burst of heat. The sound of something scraping deep inside the tank. I was alone that night. I stayed 2 feet from the exit the whole time. Tonight it's quiet. I double-checked the seals on the main line. No leaks. Mr. Longneck hasn't blinked. I don't think he has eyelids. His smile doesn't move, but I feel like he's pleased I showed up. Maybe he likes visits. Or maybe he's just waiting for me to forget the salt. I tighten the last valve and step back, clipboard under my arm. I nod in his direction once, not out of politeness, but because I want him to see I'm not scared. It's not exactly true, but it's part of the routine. I walk back the way I came in, retracing my steps. I don't look behind me, I never do. When I reach the doorway, I step over the salt line carefully and close the door. It latches with a heavy click. The salt is still there, white, clean, unbroken. I sprinkle a thin layer across the line again, just to be safe. I've never seen him cross it. I don't plan to find out if he can. There's another round to make before the night's over, down by the back rooms. That one's always strange. Now, the back rooms aren't on any blueprint I've seen. They're not part of the regular mall layout. Not even the old floor plans the maintenance guy left in a box near the freight elevator. No doors labeled back rooms. No signage. But they're there, hidden behind locked access points, storage closets, and sometimes behind walls that shouldn't open. The one I use is near the service corridor behind IKEA. You press your palm against a blank metal panel and wait 6 seconds. Then the wall unlocks with a soft click and opens inward like a heavy freezer door. Inside, everything smells faintly like dust and soap. The lights buzz overhead, but they stay on. The floor's the same beige tile you see in the employee-only sections, except some tiles are mismatched. Too clean, too new, like they were replaced by someone who didn't care about pattern. The halls loop. They branch off. You can lose your way if you don't pay attention, but I've learned the path to Ben. He's not far. 4 turns in, 3 doors on the left. No number on the door, no label, just an old brass handle that sticks when it's humid. I always knock once before entering. I bring him a coffee tonight, like I always do. Red ceramic mug, black brew, no sugar. He never asks for anything fancy. Doesn't even drink it most of the time. Just holds it like it means something. He's already in the room when I step inside. Sitting on the floor, back against the wall, legs stretched out. Same uniform every time. Gray shirt, black cargo pants, laminated badge clipped to his front pocket. The name's worn off the badge, but I know what it says. Bennett, Night Security. "Hey, brought you something," I say, holding out the cup. He doesn't move at first, just looks up at me with a slow blink. His hair's thinning at the top, buzzed short on the sides. His eyes are dark and always a little too tired. I take a few steps in and crouch beside him. He finally reaches out, wraps both hands around the mug, and holds it near his chest. He doesn't drink it. He rarely does. The first time I met Ben, he didn't speak for a full week. Thought maybe he couldn't. His mouth would open a little, but no words came out. Just gestures, nods, blinks. He paced sometimes, moved chairs from one side of the room to the other, then back again. It took 3 weeks before I got his name. Now, he talks in short bursts, low voice, like someone half waking from a long nap. He forgets things easily, but not the coffee. Never the coffee. "You holding up?" I ask. He nods, still looking at the mug. "It's hot." Yeah, it's fresh." He seems to like that. A small smile tugs at the corner of his mouth. "Fresh coffee. Oh." The room he stays in isn't much. Plain walls, no windows. A folding chair in the corner, a supply cart with broken wheels, a cork board with no pins, no clocks, no exits but the one I came through. Ben's stuck here, same as the others. But he's different. He used to be like me. He walked these halls, did the rounds, checked the gates, clocked in and out. And then something happened. Nobody tells me what. Records are thin. Most of them are redacted or missing completely, but I've heard enough pieces from Jesse and hints from Lily to know Ben had a run-in with the boiler room. I've seen the way he twitches when I mention it. His eyes flick toward the walls, his shoulders tense. He won't say what happened. He's touchy. He doesn't like surprises. If you approach too fast, he grabs your arm. If you ask too many questions, he shuts down. And if you try to leave without saying goodbye, he locks the door behind you. I learned that lesson early. Took me 20 minutes to talk him down the first time. He only opened the door after I slid the mug under the table and promised to bring another one the next night. Coffee calms him. Says it's the only thing he really remembers about being alive. The smell, the heat of the cup in his hands, the routine of it, like it's proof that something real still exists. I sit on the floor across from him. We don't talk for a while, just sit there, same as always. "You want me to stay?" I ask. He shakes his head slowly. "Rounds." Yeah, rounds. I stand up, stretch and move to the door. I don't rush. You don't rush around Ben. I turn the handle slowly, open the door, and step back into the beige hallway. The back rooms are quiet. They usually are. I keep walking until I reach the access door again. The metal panel is cool under my hand. I press my palm flat and wait. After 6 seconds, the lock releases with a click. The door opens slow, heavy on its hinges. I step out into the service corridor, and shut it behind me. It seals tight. I run a finger down the seam, checking for any give. Still solid. I keep the red mug with me. Ben never finishes the coffee. He just holds it until it cools, then sets it down by the wall like he's saving it for later. I always pick it up on the way out, wipe it clean in the bathroom sink, make a new cup the next night. Sometimes he calls me by a name that isn't mine. Once, he asked if I still parked behind the old Payless. That store has been boarded up for a decade. I think he remembers parts of his life like old photographs, flashes of routine, things that mattered once. But I can work with that. You pick your way through the place however you can. Some people hold on to hate. Some forget everything. Ben's holding on to a mug of black coffee, like it's the only thing keeping him from falling through. And maybe it is. The sun is low behind the trees when I step out the side entrance. Pale light touches the pavement. The parking lot's mostly empty. Only a few cars are parked near the south wing, where the shoe place opens early. At the main doors, a woman stands by herself. She wears a gray coat, zipped to the top, and dark jeans tucked into boots. Her hair's tied back. She keeps her eyes on the glass, like she's trying to see something inside. I keep walking, make it past the trash bins, and halfway to my car before I stop. My keys are in my hand. I turn them over once, then slide them back into my pocket. I walk back toward the front entrance. She doesn't notice me until I'm a few feet away. Her face is calm, but her jaw is tight. She doesn't step back, doesn't shift her weight, just glances at my badge. I'm not trying to go in. I know it's early. You're fine. It's mostly closed anyway. Just a few shops open during the day, I reply. I figured, she says. She looks back at the glass doors. One of the bulbs in the overhead sign is burned out. The mall's name is missing a letter. I used to come here with my daughter, she begins. We had a routine. Friday afternoons, she'd get ice cream upstairs. Same flavor every time. She smiles a little, then looks down at her hands. You work nights? I nod. Yeah, security. Long hours? Yeah, I reply. I meet her eyes. She has the same kind of look Lily gets when she's thinking about something she doesn't want to say yet. My daughter's 6, I begin. She's in the hospital right now. The woman nods once. I'm sorry. It's okay, it's manageable, just expensive. She tucks her hands into her coat pockets. Her nails are short and unpainted. There's a little rip in the fabric near her wrist. She died here, she begins. It was an accident. She was 9. I haven't come back in years. Didn't even mean to stop. I was just driving by. I nod. Fridays used to be our thing. We'd get ice cream by the stand near the fountain. Mint chocolate chip, I interrupt. She smiles back at me. Yeah, that's right. She used to say it tasted like brushing your teeth, but fun. I smile back. She narrows her eyes. How'd you know it was mint? Lucky guess, I say. We stand there for a bit. A mall employee pulls into the lot and walks past us without looking up. The woman follows him with her eyes, then turns back to the doors. Neither of us speak for a minute. Then she looks over at me. I hope your daughter gets better. Thank you. She takes a small step back, glancing toward the lot. Well, I should get going. I didn't mean to take up your time." "You didn't?" I say. She pulls her coat tighter. "Thanks for talking." Yeah, anytime," I reply. She starts walking. Her boots make small sounds on the pavement. When she reaches the car, she opens the door, looks back once, and gives a short wave. I wave back. She gets in and drives off. The car is clean, but it's got a crack in the corner of the windshield. I watch her go for a little while. The glass doors reflect the morning sky behind me. The lights in the entryway buzz back to life. Inside, the floor cleaner hums near the food court. Then, I turn towards my car and I head home. The check comes in the mail on a Thursday. Plain white envelope. No logo. Just my name and address in block type. I open it over the sink, standing with my coat still on, and the front door half shut behind me. It's more than I expected. That night, I call the hospital. Pay off every last bill. Room charges, test, medication. I read off the numbers slow, just to hear the woman on the other end say, "Paid in full." I sleep better that night than I have in months. The next day, I drive to the hospital, and I sit with my daughter Chloe. She's eating dry cereal out of a paper cup and watching cartoons with the sound off. She holds my hand the whole time. Doesn't ask me anything. Just smiles, like she knows something has shifted. I could have walked away from the job after that, but I don't. The mall's still the same, still quiet, still strange in all the familiar ways. Jesse greets me like usual, polishing a revolver and arguing with no one in particular. Lily offers me a cone. Ben nods when I hand him the coffee, holds the cup with both hands like it's the only thing keeping him anchored. The salt line is intact. I lay down a fresh one anyway. I see Amanda sometimes. She stands outside near the doors around opening time. Never comes in. We don't say much. Just nod. Sometimes she waves. I keep clocking in long after the bills are paid. There isn't a reason to stay, not really. The bills are handled. My daughter's getting better. I've got no debt left except sleep. But I stay for a few reasons. Part of it is the quiet. Part of it's the routine. Part of it is knowing that things in this place still need watching. But mostly, I stay because I have a feeling there are more stories waiting. Not all of them good. Not all of them easy. But they're there. In the halls, in the rooms no one else visits. And until someone else is ready to take my place, I'll keep collecting them. One day when a rookie shows up, fresh uniform, fresh clipboard, I'll sit them down and tell them everything they need to know. Which doors to avoid, who to talk to, who not to. And I'll have a few stories ready for him, just in case. Oh, and by the way, the ghost shells are still in my belt pouch. I check them sometimes. Roll one between my fingers. Make sure they haven't cracked or crumbled. And they haven't. They feel the same as the day Jesse handed them over. Cold, solid, just a little lighter than the others. I keep them separate from the standard rounds, labeled and lined up. I haven't had to use them. Most nights pass without trouble. Whatever this place is, it has its own rhythm, its own rules. The things that roam stay where they're meant to, and the ones who linger don't cross their lines. But still, I carry them. I've learned it's better to be prepared. In this job, you don't always get a warning, and when something does come, it won't ask if you're ready. So the shelves stay close, one pocket over from my pen light and notebook. A little weight I don't mind carrying. If I ever need them, they'll be there. and I will know exactly what they're for. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. Special thank you to all my patrons. If you'd like to become a supporter on Patreon, there's a link in the description. I hope you have a great night, and thanks for watching. My name is Marcus, and I work as a janitor for the SCP Foundation. I never planned on being a janitor, though. Not that I thought I was above it, just figured by now I'd be doing something else. Something with health insurance. Something where people at least pretend to know your name, you know? I used to work maintenance at a middle school back in town. Same kind of job, just with more gum under desks and less respect. But it was stable. Paid the bills. I had my routine. Coffee at 6, mop in hand by 7, lunch in the back room with a busted vending machine. I could have done it forever, honestly. Then the school closed. Budget cuts. They gave us all 3 weeks' notice, a paper check, and a half-hearted thank you for your service. I was in my late 30s and back on the market, trying to convince people I still had something useful left in me, besides bad knees and an above-average tolerance for mold. It was rough. You think you're not that old until you're standing in a line of 20-somethings applying for the same grocery job, and they look at you like you wandered in from a different century. And I guess I did. My wife Jen tried to stay upbeat about it. She's always been better at that than me. Said we'd get by. Said maybe it was a good thing. A sign to slow down. Take a breather. She even started working weekends at the diner again. I hated that. Watching her come home with sore feet and fake smiles while I sat there scrolling job boards for openings that didn't exist. And then one day, poof, this letter showed up. No return address, no postage, just sitting in our mailbox like it'd always been there. Inside was a single page, typed. Said they were looking for someone experienced in custodial work, adaptable, and discreet. No interview, no phone call, just directions to a facility in the mountains and a time, Monday at 8 p.m. The last line read, "Pay is nightly. Envelope upon shift completion. No questions asked." Jen thought it was a prank. I thought maybe it was one of those shady contract jobs, cleaning up foreclosures, fixing up crime scenes, something like that. But still I went. We needed the money. Our savings were down to coins in a jar and a check from her cousin we never planned to cash. Figured I'd show up, see who was there, maybe walk away if it felt too weird. But there wasn't anyone at the gate. Just a red button next to a camera and a quiet buzz when the gate slid open. Like they were already expecting me. Like it wasn't the first time they'd done this. That first night, I walked down a long hallway with white floors and overhead lights that never flickered. There was a locker with my name on it. A blue uniform folded inside. A key card. And 6 rules taped to the inside of the door. That was it. No boss, no handshake. Just get to work, keep your head down. And when the night's over, there's the envelope. Heavy with cash, no name, no note. The envelope is the only reason I keep coming back. Now there's a couple things you should know about the SCP Foundation. Things I learned the hard way. People think the SCP Foundation is some secret government branch, or that it's run by aliens. I've heard everything. black site rumors, internet theories. One guy in the locker room even said it was funded by time travelers. None of that's true, as far as I can tell. The truth is simpler and weirder. The SCP Foundation exists to keep the world boring. That's what one of the guards told me on my third night, after I asked why the lights in Hall B never turn off. Because routine keeps the weird things asleep, he said. Like it was obvious. That's how people talk around here. Like you're just supposed to understand it. But I didn't. Not at first, at least. What they actually do is lock up stuff that doesn't make sense. Objects, creatures, sometimes whole rooms or places. They call them anomalies. Things that mess with physics or time, or the idea of what should be possible. They study them, contain them, and make sure no one out there knows they exist. Also, the rest of the world can go on living without knowing there's a mop that can eat fingers or a chair that grows teeth. They've got this 3-part motto: secure, contain, protect. They put it on everything. Paperwork, walls, even the plastic on my mop bucket. First, I thought it was a joke. And then I realized they mean it. These people really believe they're keeping the world safe by keeping it the same. No surprises, no chaos, no truth bigger than what people can handle. Me? I just clean up after them. My job's more janitor than scientist, but sometimes I feel more like a zookeeper. I mop the halls, scrub fingerprints off the viewing glass, disinfect the walls outside of the containment chambers. I don't go inside. Ever. That's one of the rules. But sometimes the entities get close. They tap the glass. They smile. One of them held up a sign once that said, "Nice shirt." I didn't like that. There's always work to do. Always smudges that weren't there 5 minutes ago. Scratches on the floor that weren't there the night before. I don't ask questions. Nobody here likes questions. You show up, suit up, clean up, and get out. At the end of the night, there's an envelope in your locker. It's always sealed, always cash. Enough to keep the fridge full and the lights on. I've been here a few months now, and I still don't know why they picked me. But I've got a theory. Back in high school, they used to make us take these career tests. One of them was psychological, questions about stress, fear, moral reasoning. I remember the counselor called me in afterward. Said I scored off the charts for fortitude, mental resilience, the kind of person who could handle pressure without cracking. I think the Foundation got a hold of those results. Makes sense. You'd have to be built a certain way to walk these halls and not lose it. You can't flinch every time something looks at you through glass. Speaking of, they have a lot of weird monsters here. I'll start with the first one they ever assigned to my care. Mr. Hugs. Now, they don't give a lot of instructions here. Just the 6 rules. And they don't explain them. You're supposed to follow them without asking. This one was the first I memorized. Rule number 1. Always feed the bear its Cheerios. Yeah, the yellow box that says gluten-free and apparently helps lower your cholesterol. I keep a box in my cart, near the spray bottles and the rags. The regular kind, none of the honey or multi-grain stuff. Bad things happen when you veer into unknown territory and introduce something new to these creatures. So, I stay clear of trying to be smart and follow what I know. Yellow box. And always keep extras. Now, Mr. Hugs is in Sector B, second hallway, last cell on the left. His chamber is floor-to-ceiling glass on 3 sides, steel walls behind him, and padded floors. There's a sign above the entrance with a big red bear face, like a sticker you'd find in a kid's hospital wing. But that's just for show. nobody here thinks he's cute. He's about 9 feet tall, give or take. Fur matted in some places, smooth in others, like he's been dragged through a barn and then brushed by someone who gave up halfway. His arms are long and always resting on his knees, head oversized and too round, like a cartoon. One glass eye is missing. The other just stares, blinking every once in a while. I'm not sure how it blinks. The whole thing's stitched together, but it moves like it's breathing. He sits on a cushion in the center of a cell, swaying his head left and right, like he's listening to music. He never stands. He never pays me any attention when I walk past, except for when it's feeding time. He always knows when I've brought the box. I usually do my rounds, starting at the far end, working my way down. I mop the tile, check the filters, wipe the base of the viewing glass. I make sure my cartwheels don't squeak. When I get to Mr. Hugs, I take out the Cheerios and set them on a little steel tray near the chute. I press the button, the tray slides inward, and the box is gone. Sometimes I come back later in the shift and leave another box. Doesn't matter what time. Doesn't matter how many. If I put it in, it disappears. I've never seen him eat. Never seen the box open or cereal spilled. There's no crumbs, no sign of movement. But it's always gone. Once, out of curiosity, I put a small camera on the box. Cheap kind, battery-powered. Thought maybe I'd see how he did it. The next morning, the camera was sitting on the tray. The box was gone. The camera still worked, but the footage was wiped. That was the only time I tried that, and figured it was best to either ask the guards if I was curious or just probably keep to myself. People here have theories. Some think he's not real, just a shell for something inside. Others say he's some kind of child-level mind trap. Like if you show him anything but kindness, he snaps. I don't buy any of that. What I know is years ago, he belonged to a little girl on a farm in Alabama. After she got sick, the family started losing animals. First the dogs, then the pigs, eventually the goats. All found dead. No wounds, just dropped. People assumed poison or disease. And then the parents died too. When the foundation got there, they found the girl missing, the house empty, and Mr. Hugs sitting in the barn, surrounded by a circle of dead goats. They took him in that same day. There's a laminated photo taped to the inside of the viewing glass. Shows him clean and new, with the girl smiling next to him. That part's probably supposed to be comforting. But the way he sits now, swaying like that, I don't know. Makes you wonder what he remembers. I don't touch the glass. I don't speak to him. I don't stay long. I do the floor, I restock the cereal, and I move on. He's never given me a reason to worry, but I still keep 2 extra boxes in the cart. Just in case. Now, I should probably tell you the next rule before we talk about something else. Rule number 2. If you see Miss Lady walking the halls, say good evening, and keep moving. Miss Lady is what they call her here. Officially, she's SCP-7231, but nobody uses that number. Everyone just calls her Miss Lady, and they say it in a low voice, like the walls might be listening. She came from Las Vegas. According to the file, she was discovered wandering behind a gas station on the edge of the strip. A man taking out trash saw her first and thought she was a drunk woman who'd lost her way. And then he noticed her torso wasn't attached. The story says he fainted where he stood, and when he woke up, she was still walking circles near the dumpster. The foundation came for her the same night, They lured her into a transport van by shining a light in the back and waiting for her to step inside. She didn't resist. She just walked up the ramp, calm and steady, like she'd been waiting. The strangest part is how she looks, or what's left of her. Miss Lady is pale from the waist down, skin stretched tight across bone and muscle. Her legs are long, but not graceful. Her knees bend with a strange stiffness, as though her joints have been worn down from too many miles. Her feet are bare. The soles are dark and scuffed, the nails broken, and every step she takes leaves a faint mark, as though the floor itself dislikes her touch. Her body ends just above the hips. There's no clean cut, no smooth surface where the rest of her should be. It's open. It's raw. Her torso is missing, and if you make the mistake of looking too closely, you can see into the cavity. Miss Lady doesn't stay in one place. She roams. The Foundation tried to hold her in a chamber, but she never stayed. Doors closed, locks checked, lights secured, yet she'd be gone before the next patrol passed through. Now, she wanders the halls between 2 and 3 in the morning. Never earlier, never later. If you're assigned to those hours, you prepare yourself. Though she's never violent. Then again, that does not mean she can't be. That's what most of the monsters here are, and it's best to remember that when you're making your own rounds. The rule is simple. If you see her, you say, "Good evening." Don't ask questions, don't comment, don't stare. A greeting is enough, then you keep moving. The first time I saw her, I didn't know that. I was cleaning the main corridor in Sector B when I heard footsteps behind me. They were noticeable, all right, each one clear and sharp on the tile. I thought it was a guard, so I turned to check. And what I saw froze me in place. Her legs were pale and stiff, her feet blackened from endless walking, and above her hips was only the swaying movement of organs in the open air. I remember my mop falling from my hand and hitting the floor. Then everything went dark. When I woke up, I was on the ground with a sore neck. A security guard stood over me. He looked annoyed, not worried. He told me the second rule, word for word. Then he just walked away. Now I don't take chances. When I hear her steps, I keep my head forward. I don't let my eyes wander. I say, "Good evening," with a steady voice, and I continue walking. She never answers, just passes by, her bare feet leaving faint marks on the tile. Other workers whisper about her in the break room, where this monster came from, how she came to be. Most importantly, why she's one of the few allowed to roam around unattended, and whether or not we're safe when she does. I have passed her enough times now to know the sound of her steps. They stay in rhythm, never hurrying, never dragging. Sometimes they fade into the distance, and sometimes they stop just long enough to make me think she is standing right behind me. I never look. Alright, rule number 3. When Randy appears, keep him in your line of sight and slowly walk backwards until he's gone. I've only seen Randy 3 times, and I hope that number never goes up. His full designation is SCP-8092, but, nobody here bothers with the whole thing. They just call him Randy the Reverse Man. The name sounds like a joke until you see him. After that, you never call him anything at all if you can help it. They keep him on the west wing, deep in a part of the facility no one uses for regular work. The whole hall stays dark unless you trip the motion sensors. Even then, the lights never come on all the way. They buzz at half strength, like they don't really want to be involved. When I clean down there, I do it fast. I don't listen for sounds. I don't think too hard about shadows that change shape. The rule is simple. If you see Randy, you look at him. You keep looking. You do not blink. You back away slowly, eyes on him the whole time. Once he's out of view, you do not go back until the next shift. I found out why the rule exists during my second month. A researcher explained it in passing, right before disappearing from the site roster 2 days later. He said Randy is like the weeping angels from that old show Doctor Who, creatures that can only move when no one's watching. The difference is, the angels were stone. Randy is something else. He looks like a man wearing a dark gray suit. The clothes are neatly pressed, and the buttons always seem polished. His shoes are black and old-fashioned, but not scuffed. From a distance, he could pass for someone real. The problem starts when you look closer. His arms are backward. The elbows bend in reverse, and the fingers flex in a way that looks painful, even though he never shows pain. His legs are jointed wrong, too. His knees point the wrong way, and his ankles twist in slow, deliberate rotations as he walks. He moves in reverse, step by step, like a tape being played backward. His head is on backwards, too. His face is on the back of his skull, and he always smiles. His teeth are small and too square, and he smiles like he knows what you did last week and found it amusing. He doesn't blink. He doesn't breathe. And if you close your eyes even for a second, he will be closer when you open them again. The first time I saw him was during a late shift. I'd been sent down to clean the unused corridor near Lab 7C. Nobody told me Randy was out. I rounded a corner, and there he was, standing at the far end of the hallway, with his arms hanging loose at his sides. I thought he was facing away from me until he began to move backward, toward me. I froze. My brain struggled to process it. His arms bent the wrong way as he stepped closer. His neck turned in a slow half circle until his eyes were on mine, even though his body never rotated. The lights above me flickered once, then steadied, and I remembered the rule. I locked my eyes on his, and I started walking backward. As I backed up, he passed through the edge of the light and entered the darkness behind me. I could still see him clearly. His eyes never shifted. His smile didn't fade. When I finally reached the end of the hallway, I turned the corner and broke line of sight. And I stood still for a full 10 minutes before I moved again. I didn't finish cleaning that corridor. I didn't log it, and I didn't report what happened. The researchers already know. Everybody here does. They just don't talk about it unless they have to. Now, I check the schedule before every shift. If Randy's been logged as active, I stay away. If my cart is assigned to that wing, I request a reschedule. If that doesn't work, I carry a mirror. I angle it over my shoulder while I walk, and I never blink more than I need to. I would rather deal with Miss Lady 10 times in one night than see Randy again. Rule number 4. If Gusty is in the hall, do not turn your back. Walk away slowly and keep your eyes fixed until you're safe. I did not believe Gusty was real until I saw him myself. People talk in this place. They say things to fill the silence. You learn which stories are only rumors and which are warnings. When I first heard about Gusty, I thought it was just the Randy story told with new paint. Sounded too similar, you know? Another figure that only moved when you weren't looking. Another one that froze under your gaze. But then I found out there were files, reports, and even photos. He was not another version of Randy. He was worse. Gusty looks like one of those plastic anatomy models from high school biology classrooms. I remember ours stood near the window, always dusty, the left lung missing. Gusty is complete, down to the smallest arteries painted on the inside of the ribcage. His plastic muscles are layered across a clean skeletal frame, all glossy red and pink, and his face is an open grin of molded teeth. He even has a removable heart panel locked in his chest, though no one dares test if it actually comes loose. When he stands still, he could pass for a science prop that someone forgot to pack away. But if you look away, even for a second, he moves. And that's where the problem starts. If you catch sight of Gusty while you're on your rounds, you can't just keep walking and hope he goes the other way. You have to stay locked on him. He only moves when you aren't looking. If you blink too long or turn your back, or even walk behind a cart and lose line of sight for half a second, he advances. He doesn't creep like Randy, he lunges. And if he catches you, he knocks you out cold and drags your body, always to the second floor science room. Doesn't matter where you are when he gets you. That's where you'll wake up, slumped in a plastic chair with classroom posters on the wall, and Gusty standing beside the projector like a teacher ready to begin. That's how they found a level 2 researcher last month. Everyone who works this wing knows the risk. Once you see him, your night's over. You either lock eyes and back away until you're clear, or you use the only tool the Foundation has found that freezes him in place. There's a backup plan for staff who can't handle the stare down. It's called video number 004. You have to go to the old viewing theater on the south end of the facility. The player barely works, and the button sticks when you press it. But once the tape starts, Gusty will stop moving. The video is an old documentary about the founding of the school he was taken from. The original name of the school has been erased from every part of the film. You'll see students in uniforms, long empty hallways, a headmaster giving a speech about legacy and science, and a shot of a science club posing behind a skeleton model that looks exactly like Gusty. The entire film runs about 18 minutes. As long as it's playing, Gusty doesn't move. You can look away. You can walk right past him. You can even clean the floor under his feet if you're feeling brave. But the second the tape ends, he picks up where he left off. His limbs rotate. His head turns. And if you aren't ready, he comes for you. I've only used the tape once. I didn't have the nerve to keep eye contact that night. I ran to the theater, hit play, and stood behind the glass window while he froze mid-step. His arm was raised like he'd been mid-reach. He didn't twitch. Not once. I cleaned the hallway in 6 minutes, didn't touch my mop water after that, and left before the credits finished. It worked, but I don't like how it worked. The researchers think he recognizes the school. They think the video calms him. I'm not sure about that. I think that it just reminds him of something. Alright, rule number 5. Make sure the yellow kid's cell is always raining. Check the valves. Check the tanks. There's a child here. Or something shaped like one. We call it the yellow kid. No one knows what it looks like underneath. It wears a yellow raincoat with a hood pulled down low over its face. You can't see any skin. You can't tell if it's a boy or a girl. The coat is too big, and the sleeves hang past where the hands should be. The whole thing looks soaked all the time. Doesn't move much. It stands in the middle of its room with its head slightly tilted, like it's waiting for something. The rule for it is simple.
Its containment chamber has to be raining at all times. Not wet, not misted, not damp. It needs to be actively raining. Real steady drops from overhead, like a storm that never stops. The artificial rain is created by a special system installed in the ceiling above its chamber. Pipes run down from a set of tanks on the lower level. Those tanks feed water into a pressure system that controls a grid of nozzles. When the system is on, the nozzles release a controlled rainfall inside the room. The pattern is light and steady, designed to simulate a calm weather system. It's enough to keep the whole room wet without flooding it. Keeping that system running isn't my main job. That's handled by full maintenance. They're the ones who refill the tanks, replace broken parts, and reset the controls if something goes wrong. But during my rounds, I've been told to check the basics. That means I look through the observation window to make sure it's actually raining inside. I glance at the gauges beside the control panel and confirm that the main tank pressure is high enough. If the water stops and I don't notice, it can become a problem fast. So the responsibility lands on whoever's in the hallway at the time. Most nights, that's me. The tanks are tall metal cylinders with markings that show how full they are. The primary tank has a strip of black tape wrapped around it. That's the 60% line. If the water falls below that tape, the pressure starts to drop, and the rain may come out uneven or stop altogether. If I see that the water has dropped too low, I don't fix it myself. I call into maintenance and then activate the backup valve. That valve connects to a secondary tank. It's not ideal, but it works in emergencies, and it keeps the rain going until the primary system can be restored. The yellow kid doesn't move when it's raining. That's the part everyone agrees on. It stays still, right in the center of the room, with a hood over its face and the sleeves covering its arms. But if the rain ever stops, well, I've heard stories. It's bad. I heard 4 people were killed one night in the outside hallway before someone finally turned on the sprinklers. So we make sure it always stays raining. Rule 6. Give the Sandman his dinner every night at 8. Never miss the time. The Sandman is different from the others. Most of them don't speak, or if they do, it's not in any way you can follow. They stare, they shift, they rattle a little in their cells. The Sandman's not like that. He talks. He talks like he already knows you, like you've met before. And sometimes I answer him. I know I shouldn't. The Foundation calls him SCP-9912, but everyone on staff just calls him the Sandman. The name doesn't fit him at first. He doesn't have a bag of dreams or a gentle way about him. His chamber is lined with sand dunes that shift without wind. The floor is never still. Sometimes it piles high against the walls. Sometimes it spreads flat. But it's always moving. The Sandman stands in the middle of it, like a post in a desert. He's tall, his frame hidden under plain clothes that look like they were dug up out of the sand itself. No face, just smooth skin where the features should be, stretched tight and pale. You can tell where the head points because the neck bends in your direction when you walk in. You know he's looking at you, even without eyes. The rule is simple. Every night at exactly 8, he gets a meal. The tray looks ordinary. There's always protein, a side of vegetables, and a glass of juice. Sometimes he eats chicken, sometimes beef. The vegetables change too. Green beans, carrots, peas. The juice is usually orange, and at first glance it looks like cafeteria food. But it isn't. Every item has been treated with a tonic. It's packed with caffeine, far more than any human could drink without shaking apart. That's the point. The Sandman is not allowed to sleep. I don't know why. They don't tell us those things. I know better than to ask. But I can guess. You don't drug someone every single day of their life unless there's a reason. And when that someone can reach into people's heads, you don't take risks. It's ironic. The Sandman who never sleeps. When I bring the tray in, I don't go far. I place it in the marked square on the floor, just inside the door. The sand shifts around my boots while I step forward, as though the room itself doesn't like being disturbed. He never moves when I do this. He only speaks. The first time, I nearly dropped the tray. Marcus, you're late, it said. I wasn't. My watch said 7:59. I placed the tray and backed out. The next day, he said my wife's name. After that, he said the name of the street I grew up on. Sometimes it's worse than that. Sometimes he says things I've never told anyone. I don't know if he's reading my mind or if the Foundation gave him my file. Both are bad answers. Both feel true, actually. Most nights I don't answer him, but sometimes I do. It slips out before I can stop it. If he says my name, I might say yes. If he asks a question, sometimes I mutter a reply under my breath. Never laughs, never jokes. His tone never changes. But when he gets a response, it's like he's satisfied. His presence is unnerving in a way the others aren't. Randy will freeze you with fear if you slip up. Gusty will knock you out and drag you back to his classroom. The Sandman doesn't have to touch you. He makes you feel like you've already lost before anything happens. And that's why I always follow the rule. Dinner at 8, protein, vegetables, juice. Each one laced with enough caffeine to keep a man awake for days. I don't know what would happen if he ever fell asleep. And I don't want to find out. And that's all I know. Yeah, at least for now. I'm just one of many who work here. There are others like me, janitors who were brought in without much explanation and handed a list of rules. Some of them manage full wings on their own. Some don't talk much. A few I haven't seen in weeks, actually. I don't know if that means they quit or were transferred, or if something much worse happened. Nobody tells you. You just show up, clean what you're told to clean, deliver what you're told to deliver, and keep your head down. The place is bigger than anyone admits. It's not just one building. Not really. It stretches deeper and farther than makes sense. I have walked the same hallway for months and still come back across doors I have never seen before. Elevators go to levels that aren't listed on any map, and some rooms don't show up in any log. The Foundation doesn't correct you when you ask. They just look at you like you're supposed to know better. I mop the floors, I scrub the windows, I deliver dinner trays to things that don't sleep, don't eat, or shouldn't speak at all. I check valves and switches, refill supplies, and note down anything that feels wrong. I keep a small notebook in my locker just for myself. Not because I think someone will read it later, but because writing things down reminds me what's real and what's just the job. When the shift ends, I go back to the locker room. My envelope's always there, thick, sealed, and unmarked. I don't count the money anymore. It's always enough. I drive home while it's still dark and crawl into bed beside my wife. She always stirs a little and mumbles something sweet. I don't tell her about my day. She doesn't ask anymore. That's the agreement we have. And yeah, that's the job. If you're thinking of taking it, just remember one thing. Always follow the rules.
My name is Oliver, and I joined the circus because I thought it'd be easy money. I'd been working carnivals since I was 17. Not the fun kind with clean lights and smiling families, but the back-end stuff. Loading crates, fixing generators, chasing off drunk teenagers trying to sneak in without tickets. Greasy fair food, cricket rides, long hours, no benefits. It wasn't a career. It wasn't even a job most of the time. You just drifted from one town to the next to guys who didn't like to talk about what they'd done before they found themselves elbow deep in mechanical snakes or rigging up tilt-a-whirls in the rain. I didn't have a plan. I told myself I was just doing this until something better came along. I used to carry books in my duffel, old paperbacks I found at thrift stores. I'd read them between shifts, or when the rides were slow. Sometimes, I'd sit on top of the funhouse roof with a sandwich and read until the sun went down. Made things feel normal, like I was still part of the real world. I liked nonfiction, science stuff, history, odd facts. I'd underline words I didn't know and look them up later, write them on napkins or scratch paper and try to remember them. I told myself I might go back to school someday, take, night classes maybe. My dad always said education was the only thing you could carry without a bag. But that was before the recruiter came. It was late summer, and I was doing lowdown at a washed-up fairground outside of Reno. A storm had blown through the night before, and half the tents were half collapsed in the mud. Everyone was tired, irritated, and broke. We'd just gotten stiffed on our last paycheck, and the boss had vanished. Again. And that's when I saw him. Red coat, black slacks, polished shoes that didn't sink into the mud like everyone else's. He was just standing by the fence, hands behind his back, like he was waiting for someone. He watched me for a long time before calling me over. Said he was hiring for a traveling circus. Said they needed labor. Stagehands, security, whatever. Said they paid cash at the end of every night. No strings, no contracts. Just show up, work, get paid. I didn't ask too many questions. And that was my first mistake. I packed my stuff, and I left with him that night. There wasn't much to pack. Just my duffel, the clothes I'd been wearing, and a backpack full of dented paperbacks. I didn't tell anyone goodbye. Didn't have anyone to tell. It felt, just like another job, another town, just another tent to set up and tear down. And maybe it would have been, if it were any other place. But nothing about this circus was normal. They called themselves Circus de Freak. I still remember the first time I saw it. We were driving through the desert in a rented van, just me and the guy in the red coat. He didn't talk much, just hummed sometimes under his breath and kept his eyes on the road. I fell asleep at some point. When I woke up, we weren't on the highway anymore. There was a big open field ahead, and the tents were already standing, striped black and gold, stretching out in all directions like they'd been there for years. I hadn't seen anyone set them up. There weren't any tracks or trailers, just tents and a few old-fashioned wagons. And that was when I started to feel it. Something off, like I'd stepped into a place that wasn't supposed to be found. But I pushed the feeling down. I needed the money. I needed a place to sleep. And the guy in the red coat had already gotten out of the van and started walking, so I followed. The man in the red coat turned out to be the ringmaster. Everyone just called him that. Nobody ever asked for his real name, and he never offered it. The only clue anyone ever had were the initials AB, stamped at the bottom of the supply checks when someone went into town for food or fuel. The only thing I knew about him then was that he ran the whole show himself. Every tent, every act, every performer. He never yelled, never rushed, never looked tired. He'd walk through the grounds every night before the crowds came in, checking the ropes, the lights, the props. He wasn't like anyone I'd ever worked for. Most bosses at carnivals were loud,
always chewing on a cigar or barking orders while pretending they were part of the action. The ringmaster didn't need to raise his voice. When he spoke, people just listened. The older workers treated him with a kind of careful respect. Some of them said they'd been working under him for decades, though he didn't look old enough for that to make sense. I figured they were exaggerating. My first night there, he handed me an envelope with my name on it, Oliver, written in neat handwriting. Inside was a folded bill and a small silver pin shaped like a crescent moon.
You write when you work. It tells the others you belong here. Like family,
he said with a smile. After the show ended that night, I saw him again. He was walking down the rows of tents, stopping by each worker, pressing money into their palms, the same quiet way he'd done with me. Nobody thanked him out loud, but everyone stood very still while he passed. It was like some kind of nightly routine. When he reached me, he nodded and handed me another folded bill. His hand felt dry, and his cologne smelled faintly like burnt sugar mixed with something else. I didn't think much of it at the time. It was late, and I was too tired to care about fancy perfume. The circus itself was unlike any show I'd ever seen. It didn't have a fixed address. One night, we'd be in an empty lot on the edge of a city, and the next we'd wake up surrounded by farmland or on an old fairground that looked abandoned for years. We'd set up after sundown, perform through the night, and by dawn, we'd be gone. The posters always looked the same no matter where we went. One night only, witness a heart-stopping performance. Someone always managed to get the word out fast. Crowds came. No tickets, no entry fees. Everything was free until 6 in the morning. That was the rule. My job was simple. I helped set up tents, carried boxes, repaired wiring, handled spotlights when performers needed it. Sometimes I swept sawdust or held ropes for the acrobats. Nothing hard, but the schedule was strange. We'd start at sunset and end right before sunrise. No clocks anywhere. Only the ringmaster seemed to know the time. Paid us every night, always in cash, always exact. No one got shorted, no one got overpaid. There were no ledgers or receipts, just those neat envelopes with our names on them. A few of the older workers said they tried to ask him about taxes or contracts once, but they stopped bringing it up. The circus didn't have an address, a manager, or even a record online. Just appeared, and the audience didn't seem to care. They came dressed in their best clothes, laughing, eating caramel corn, taking pictures. By morning, they were gone. We'd tear everything down, pack the wagons, and by the time the sky lightened, it was like we were never there. Sometimes, when we were setting up in a new town, I'd look at the ringmaster and wonder how long he'd been doing this. He didn't seem to age, not in the way people do. His face looked the same every night, his suit always pressed, his gloves spotless. The older performers claimed he'd looked exactly like that since the day they met him. I didn't want to know the truth. My dad used to say, never look too close at a man who only deals in cash. I figured this was one of those times. And it wasn't a bad life, really. A bed to sleep in, food every night, steady work. For someone like me, that was enough. Or at least it was for a little while. Over time, I started picking up on rules. Not the kind you find in an employee handbook. There wasn't one. But the kind people learn quietly by watching. You notice things if you paid attention. Certain tents stayed closed between shows. Certain performers didn't like to be looked at too long. Some names weren't spoken out loud. Some corners of the grounds were avoided altogether, even when the wagons were tight on space. Nobody told me any of this straight out. It was more like you just knew when to step back, when to keep your voice down, when to look away. If you didn't, you learned fast, or you wouldn't last. Wasn't like the old carnival jobs. There, people were rough, sure, drunk, weird, sometimes dangerous, but they were still people. This place wasn't like that. Circus de Freak wasn't a circus full of strange people. It was a circus full of monsters. And there were rules if you wanted to survive it. Rule number 1. Never fall in love with a mermaid. This isn't the most important rule, it's just the first one I learned. I'd been with the circus for maybe 5 days when I saw him. 4 mermaids in a long tank behind the freak show tent. The tank's built low into the ground and stretches along the back like an old swimming pool, only deeper. It's got these curved glass sides, thick as a brick wall, and the water is greenish with floating strands of something like seaweed. If you walk around the back of the tent, you'll hear them before you see them. Slow, echoing splashes, like something shifting just under the surface. They're beautiful. I won't lie about that. They look like something pulled out of a dream, or a magazine ad from 100 years ago. Pale skin, smooth and cold-looking, long black hair that floats behind them like it's always caught in a current. Their tails are dark silver with flashes of blue, like wet coins. Their eyes don't blink, and when they look at you, it's like they're seeing something far away, or maybe seeing through you altogether. A lot of the new guys stare. It's hard not to. They press their faces to the glass, maybe toss in some leftover food from the crew tent, crust of bread, sandwich scraps. The mermaids will look up, move close to the surface, and sometimes they smile. It's not a big smile, just a soft little expression, like they're thankful, like they're gentle. One of them, the smallest one, with white scars down her left arm, even waved at me my first night. That's how they get you. They know how to look harmless. They know how to make you feel like they need something from you. Kindness, protection, whatever you want to believe. The ringmaster was the one who told me the truth. I'd asked him offhand why they weren't part of the main show. He laughed and said, "The real show happens after hours, if someone can pay for it." I didn't get it at first. I thought maybe they sang or danced, or something private for high-paying customers. Wasn't until the second week that I saw one of the men disappear. He was some businessman, fancy coat, shiny shoes, smelled like cologne and liquor. The kind of guy who laughed too loud at his own jokes and looked past you when you talked, like you weren't worth his time. Rumor had it, he ran some seedy business out of Vegas and was in town for vacation. He'd been tried more than once for animal abuse too, according to the papers anyway, but always got off somehow. I saw him earlier that evening at the front gate, kicking a stray dog out of his way and calling it a stupid mutt, like it had personally offended him. He came in late, after the lights had gone down and the public had gone home. I saw him slip behind the freak show tent with a rolled up wad of bills and a grin. The ringmaster followed him in, and nobody saw the businessman come back out. The next morning, I was sweeping the gravel along the main path when I saw something strange in the mermaid tank. First, I thought it was just rocks. Then I looked closer. There were bones under the plants. Actual bones. Ribs, finger joints, a jaw half hidden behind a curtain of green. Coins glittered between them like decorations. I asked one of the rigging crew, a guy who'd been with the circus for years, if I was seeing what I thought I was. He just nodded and said,
"They eat people. Thought you knew." Then he went back to tightening bolts like it was nothing. And that was when it really hit me. This was not a regular place with strange people. It was a place for real monsters. And the ringmaster, he didn't stop it. In fact, he sold it. He called it special time. Visitors who could pay enough were given private access to the tank. Most of them thought it was something romantic, something exclusive, an hour with a beautiful creature. I think maybe they believed it was some kind of exclusive show, or maybe a photo op. But the mermaids weren't interested in conversation. They waited. They pressed their faces to the glass, quiet and lovely, until the door opened and the humans stepped inside. Then they pulled them into the water. Fast. One sharp splash and the person was gone. If they screamed, nobody heard. Or maybe nobody wanted to. The tank is deep. Deeper than it looks. It's designed that way, so the body sinks fast, so the feeding stays out of sight. People ask about the missing guests sometimes, especially the rich ones who come in late and never leave. The ringmaster always has an answer. He says it plainly, and nobody questions him. Somehow, he always knows who'll be missed and who won't. He has a soft spot for animals. He feeds the strays behind the tents, and he once helped a wounded fox without saying a word. But he doesn't feel the same way about people who step onto his circus grounds thinking they own the place. Especially the greedy ones. He says people like that spend their lives eating everything around them. Resources, opportunities, people. So when the mermaids drag them under, he calls it fair. They eat, and then they get eaten. That's how the ringmaster sees it. Nobody argues. Yeah, so that's rule 1. Never fall in love with a mermaid. Look, they don't love you, okay? They're just hungry, starving. Every time I pass their tank now, I look away. I don't wave, I don't feed them. I don't meet their eyes. That's what they want. And if you're the type of person who starts thinking, maybe you're different, maybe they won't hurt you, maybe they love you, well, that's the kind of thinking that gets your bones stacked under seaweed like the rest of them. The rules aren't all bad. Some of them can even work in your favor if you pay attention. In fact, this next one, you might actually like it. There's someone here on the circus grounds you should meet, especially if you're ever in a bind about your future. Rule 2. Do talk to the madam if you have the time. She's easy to miss if you don't know where to look. Her tent is small, purple, and set back past the doctor's trailer, little off the main path where the grass grows taller. Most people pass it without noticing. There's no sign out front, no lights, no music, just a wooden post with a hand-painted crescent moon on it. Inside, it's quiet. The air smells like old tea leaves and wax. No mirrors, no stage tricks, no glowing fog machines like the rest of the circus. Just shelves of jars, stacks of books, and her crystal ball on a table in the center. And inside that ball is the Madam Rose Murda, the resident fortune teller. She's a floating head. Just that. A round, pale face inside the glass, blinking slowly, like she's in no hurry at all.
Her hair floats gently around her cheeks like it's underwater. Her eyes follow you when you move. She used to be an innkeeper in some far-off place, a town of witches or something like that. She never gives many details. Says she took in the wrong guest one winter and ended up like this. Now, she tells fortunes for a living, reads people's thoughts when they walk through her tent, and hands out advice whether you ask for it or not. But she's kind. Madame Rosemerta always remembers my name. She calls me Ollie in this warm, familiar voice, like I'm her grandson or some neighbor kid she used to babysit. The first time she said it, I almost corrected her. Told her it was Oliver, but I let it go. Felt nice, like something I hadn't heard in a long time. Her tent is one of the few safe places on the circus grounds. It's the only place I can sit down without looking over my shoulder. Nobody bothers you there. None of the creatures come poking around, and the ringmaster never steps foot inside. Nobody knows why. Some say they had a falling out years ago. Others think he's just afraid of her. Either way, he keeps his distance, and that's good enough for me. I go there when I need to think. This time, she didn't even wait for me to say hello.
Ollie, when are you gonna leave this place and do something with your life?
She said, before I'd stepped all the way inside. I laughed and dropped into the wooden chair across from her table. The legs wobbled a little, like always. Yeah, nice to see you too, Rosemerta. She smiled, slow and wide. Her teeth were small but sharp.
Don't dodge the question.
Well, you're still here, I began. If it's so bad, why aren't you out there doing something with your life? I said. She tilted slightly in the glass like she was shrugging.
Oh, I've got a debt to pay. The kind that can't be settled with money. But you, Ollie, you're free, she said.
I didn't say anything right away. I scratched at the edge of the table with my fingernail and looked around the shelves. The jars were labeled in a language I couldn't read. One of them had something floating in it that looked like a pickled bat. I've just never made this much money before, especially not for doing work like this. It's not hard stuff. I set up the lights, I haul crates. It's simple, I said finally.
She nodded. That's how it starts. Looks easy, feels good. It promises a way out. Then one day you wake up and realize it's not a job. It's a trap.
I'm not trapped, I replied. Rosemerta didn't argue. She just looked at me, quiet, waiting for me to keep talking. Look, I've worked worse jobs, okay? This place is strange, yeah, but it's steady. I eat, I sleep, I get paid in cash. And I don't have to deal with the outside world. No landlords, no bosses breathing down my neck, no resumes or uniforms or fake smiles. I know it's weird, but it's simple, I said. She didn't blink.
Pain likes to disguise itself as comfort. You should remember that.
I gave her a look. Do you always have to talk like it's the end of the world?
She grinned. That's my job, dear. I'm your elder and a resident fortune teller. You'd be a fool not to listen to the floating head in the crystal ball, Ollie.
I couldn't help but smile. I can't argue with that. I looked down at the ball, and for a second, her face looked older, more tired, and I briefly wondered how many people like me she'd given that same advice to, and how many of them actually followed it.
I don't even know where I'd go, I began. It's not like I have people waiting for me anywhere. I don't have a home, I don't even have a car. Nobody checks on me. The outside, it's not exactly begging me to come back, I admitted. She smiled again. You don't need a map, just a decision. And we sat in silence for a while after that. There wasn't any sound in her tent, except for the soft ticking of an old clock somewhere. I didn't want to look at it. I knew if I stayed too long, I'd start to agree with her. Before I left, she gave me the usual warning. This place makes promises, big ones. Tells you it can take the pain away. It says you'll earn your freedom if you just keep working. But freedom doesn't come from working for people like him, she said. Yeah, I know, I replied. Do you? Because most people don't realize they're trapped until the doors are already locked. I stood there for a second. Then I gave her a small smile. You want anything from the bakery tent? I think they've got those croissants you like. Her eyes brightened. That's my alley. Yeah, don't forget the flaky crust this time. Not the dense ones, those are an insult. I would never, I said, already turning to go. She didn't press the issue again. She didn't have to. I heard her voice behind me, light and fond. Come back when you're ready to talk properly, she said. I lifted a hand in a lazy wave and stepped outside. Rule number 3. Never stay for too long. Most people don't realize they've stayed for too long till it's already happened. That's how it works here. Slowly, little by little, things start to feel comfortable. You get used to the noise at night, the strange faces, the long hours. At first, everything is new and strange, but eventually it feels like routine, like home. That's how they get you. I've heard it called different things. The hooks, the charm, the lull. But the real name is an infernal contract. That's what the old book says. It's a deal. You get something you want, something big. And in return, the circus takes something from you. Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes you don't even notice until years have passed. Then one day you look up and you realize the door's been shut behind you for a long time. For me, it was money and belonging. I've always felt like an outsider. I was the weird kid in school who liked books and never spoke up. I worked bad jobs for years where nobody even remembered my name. I was always just passing through, never worth much to anyone. But here, people knew me. People needed me. They called me Ollie, laughed at my jokes, saved me a plate at dinner. For once in my life, I felt like I was a part of something. And I was getting paid a lot better than I ever had. 3 times what I'd made working double shifts at the county fairgrounds. It's not just the money, though. It's the idea that maybe this place is a stepping stone. I start thinking, what if I just stay a little longer? Just until I've saved up enough to go back to school. Just until I can afford a place of my own. Just until I figure out what comes next. That's the trap. It starts with logic. You tell yourself it's smart. You tell yourself it's temporary. Feels good. You're eating hot meals. You got a roof, a bed, a name. You're not just some extra on the sidelines. You matter. And the more you tell yourself you're doing it for the future, the more you start to believe it.
but this place doesn't want you to leave. The circus runs on these contracts, not written ones, but real ones, tied to something darker. The kind of deals devils used to make in old stories. A gift for a price. And the longer you stay, the deeper in you go. Some people here used to have lives outside, families, dreams. You ask them now, and they don't even remember what they were saving for. They just remember the day they stopped thinking about leaving. I still think about it. Most days, at least. I still think I'll get out eventually. I'll pack up my duffel, take the cash I've saved, and head for the nearest city. I'll find a small apartment, register for night classes, maybe buy a cheap couch. Something normal. But there's a part of me that wonders if I've already stayed too long. Madame Rosmerta warned me. She said the circus makes big promises, that it starts out feeling like a second chance. Then it sinks in its teeth. By the time you realize what you've given up, it's already yours no longer. And yet I'm still here. The ringmaster found me alone near the edge of the grounds, standing behind the generator wagon with my hands in my pockets. The sky was still dark, but the sun was close. Just enough light to make the tents look faded and worn around the edges. He didn't say anything at first, just walked up in that quiet way of his and stood beside me, his red coat sharp against the gray morning. He held his top hat in one hand, the other tucked behind him, like always. I didn't look at him right away. I kept my eyes on the tents, on the dim glow of lanterns being taken down one by one.
The mermaids ate someone new last night. Poor fellow practically dove in. Hardly made a sound. We're bringing in werewolves with the next shipment too. The crowd's been asking for something a little wilder, he said.
He adjusted his gloves, brushing a speck of dust from the cuff, and smiled, like it was just good business. I didn't answer. He stepped forward, just enough to look at me directly. His face was pale, clean, without a single crease or blemish. He looked like he'd been carved from something hard and cold, but he smiled all the same.
I hope you're settling in. People seem to really like you, Ollie. You're useful. Steady hands. No complaints. Easy to work with. That's rare around here, he said.
I didn't come here to stay forever, I replied.
No. You came for my money. But tell me, when was the last time somebody called you by name before this? He asked.
I didn't have an answer for that.
You're one of us. A circus freak. Through and through. That's not a bad thing. This is a place for people just like you. People who don't quite fit in anywhere else, he said, with grand outstretched arms like he was headlining another show.
He turned and looked back at the rows of tents. A few workers were still packing things up, dragging ropes, hammering stakes loose.
So what if we kill people? Most of them deserve it, don't they? The greedy, the cruel, the careless. The circus never eats more than it needs to, he said, looking out over the tents. Then he turned to me and smiled. His lips pulled back just enough to show a row of jagged, yellowed teeth. Out there, you're just another boy in a line. But here, You're part of something that matters. A family, he said. He said it like it was a kindness, like he was offering me a home. But I'd seen too much. I'd seen bones at the bottom of the mermaid tank. I'd seen people disappear behind tents and never return. I'd seen what happened to those who stayed too long, chasing promises that turned to chains. This place isn't right, I began. It's not home, and it's not even real. He didn't argue. He didn't try to stop me or change my mind. Instead, he gave a little bow, low and elegant, and set his top hand gently on his head. Well, perhaps one day we'll see eye to eye. Until then. He opened his arms as if presenting the tents around us. Welcome to the Circus de Frick. We're happy to have you as part of the family, he said with a flourish. Then he walked off, slow and easy, back into the winding paths of the camp, disappearing behind a line of wagons. I stayed there for a while, listening to the last few crates being locked, the footsteps of tired workers heading for the bunks. On my way back, I passed the main poster again. It was nailed to a crooked wooden board near the front gate, the paper slightly curled from dew. The same design as always, black and gold lettering, bold and dramatic. One night only. Witness a heart-stopping performance. Below that, in the tiniest font you can imagine, barely visible unless you're really looking, it said, free until 6 a.m. After that, you must pay a price equal to all you've consumed. I stood there longer than I meant to, just staring at it. My dad used to tell me there's one piece of advice that never gets old. No matter where you end up in life, always read the fine print. Well, it took me 6 years to get out. 6 years of working quietly, keeping my head down, doing just enough to be useful, but not enough to be missed. 6 years of saving every dollar, mapping every exit, and pretending I didn't see what I saw. There was a murder, a bad one, the kind I'll explain some other time. And that was the night I knew I couldn't stay any longer. I packed light, didn't say goodbye. Just took my duffel and walked until the lights of the circus disappeared behind me. My boots carried me across 2 counties before I even thought about stopping. And even then, I didn't sleep. The circus doesn't chase you when you leave. That's the trick. It just waits. It knows most everyone comes back. But I'm not coming back. I'm writing this now in the back of a freight train. Car smells like rust and grain. It's quiet, except for the clatter of the tracks. I've tucked this journal behind some crates, wedged between 2 boxes marked for delivery. I don't know who will find it. Maybe nobody will. But maybe it'll be someone like me. Young, broke, tired, and looking for something that feels like a home. If that's you, if you're reading this, I'm begging you to get out while you still can. You'll see the poster. It'll say what it always says. One night only, witness a heart-stopping performance, free until 6 a.m. That part's true. But there's the rest. There's that tiny print. After that, you will be required to pay a price equal to all you've consumed in body, in spirit, or in soul. A week ago, I got a letter, handwritten in dark blue ink, folded into a purple envelope that smelled like incense and bakery butter. No stamp, no return address. I still don't know how it found me. It was from Madame Rosemerda. She said her debt is finally paid. She didn't say how. She just said she's opening something new. A little shop behind a gas station on a desert road halfway across the country. She said she needs someone to fix the lights and sweep the porch and keep her company when things get slow. I'm going. I don't know what I'll find there. Maybe cobwebs in places Rosemerda can't reach. But it's better than staying one day longer in a place that never meant to let me go. If you're smarter than I was, you won't go looking for the circus. Especially not this one. You won't try to prove you're different. You will listen to the ones who barely made it out. And if nothing else sticks, remember the rules at least. They're simple. Don't fall in love with a mermaid. Talk to fortune tellers if you have the time. And never stay too long in places you don't belong. Some people, like the ringmaster, will promise you the world. Lights, laughter, a place to belong. Just make sure you know what it will cost.
Hey, huge thank you to all my patrons. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, there's a link in the description. I hope you enjoyed the story, and have a good night. My name is Casper. I run my family's funeral home. It was passed down to me by my dad, and to him by his dad before that. As far back as I know, this has always been our work. Some families pass down land or receipts or businesses with friendly storefronts. We pass down the knowledge on how to care for dead bodies. I was named after a movie, actually. Casper the Friendly Ghost. Came out in 1995. My parents watched it in cinema on their first date. I like my name. Always have. It fits my job, sure, but more than that, it fits the way my parents saw the world. They believed you could be gentle and still do serious work. They believed kindness didn't cancel out responsibility. And in a world where work like ours exists, you need a high level of both. Growing up, I always knew who I was going to be. Some people called that limiting. I never did. There was a certain peace in it. I never had to guess. I never had to panic about the future. I watched my dad work. I watched him speak to families when they were tired, been sore from crying. I watched how he moved through the building like it was an extension of his body. He knew which doors stuck in the summer and which lights flickered when it rained. He showed me how to carry weight without letting it crush you. I couldn't want for anything when it came to my parents. They were present, steady, and inspiring in the way heroes were in books. They didn't sugarcoat things, but they didn't scare me either. Death was never a monster in our house. It was just a fact. A serious one. One that deserved respect. That doesn't mean the job is easy. Funeral homes run on strange hours. Most of my work happens at night or early in the morning, when the rest of the world is asleep or just starting their day. I smell like cleaning bleach more often than I'd like. Gets into your clothes, your hands, your hair. You can shower and still catch a trace of it later, like it's reminding you where you've been. Socializing is hard when your schedule doesn't line up with anyone else's. Friends learn not to ask what I'm doing on weekends. Dating is awkward until you get past the part where I explain what I do for a living. Still, makes for interesting icebreakers. You can tell a lot about someone by how they react when you say you run a funeral home. Some people get quiet. Some get nervous. Some get curious, and I don't mind any of it. I both love and hate this work. I love the structure. I love knowing what's expected of me. I love that there's a right way to do things and that doing them well matters. I love that families trust me on some of the hardest days of their lives. I hate the isolation. I hate how the hours blur together. I hate that some days follow me home whether I want them to or not. But this is my place. It's mine to steward. The building itself has been here longer than I have. Longer than my dad was when he first took over. Every generation added something small. A room, a hallway. A system that worked better than the last. Nothing flashy. Just improvements meant to keep things running smoothly. We took care of the dead, and we took care of the space where they stayed with us for a little while. One day this will all belong to someone else. That's how it works. Before that happens, there are things that need to be said, rules that need to be understood. And if you're going to take my place someday, it's best you know them. But more on that later. First things first, you should know about the place you want to work for, and you should know more about Ruby, most of all. Ruby is our family's hellhound. You'll see her before you see anything else in this building. She usually gets up before me and waits near the hallway or on the front steps. She's quiet in the mornings, more alert at night. Most people think she's just a mutt. She has a short coat and a solid build. Her face is expressive. She blinks like she's listening. When she sits, she leans into one side like it's a habit. She looks friendly, and for the most part she is. But she has horns. They curl back against her head, small and dark. When people notice them, I say it's a birth defect, some kind of bone growth. Most people don't know enough about dogs to argue. They make a few surprised noises, maybe ask what breed she is, then move on. I don't give a breed. I just call her a mix. That's not a lie, right? She was assigned here. Though I don't know by who, or how long ago her line has been watching this place. I didn't adopt her. She found me when I took over the building. My father never talked about her, but when he died and I returned home full-time, she was already waiting inside. It didn't take long for her to follow me through every part of the day. Hellhounds are supposed to guard the gates of the underworld. That's their job. I'm not entirely sure what Ruby did before she ended up here, but someone must have decided that this place qualified. Technically speaking, I work for the dead. I prepare them, watch over them, keep them safe until their families are ready to say goodbye. That seems to count. She doesn't speak, but she understands everything. She opens doors on her own, waits beside the dead like she's standing watch, and won't eat unless I do. I trust her more than anyone. This funeral home has been in my family for generations. It started as a small local business and grew over time. Families knew they could come here for care and respect. The rules were simple. We handled the body and prepared the services. We made sure every step between death and burial was done properly. But over the years, something changed. Death leaves traces. When you work in a space that constantly holds grief, memory, and the physical body itself, that energy, it builds. It's not haunted in the traditional sense. You won't find a ghost floating through the halls or an old figure waiting at the top of the stairs. But the energy, it is dense. Strange things happen here. And the rules started out as precautions to keep the workers safe. Those rules are the same ones I'm going to pass on to you. I won't ask why you took the job ad. We all have our secrets. That part doesn't matter to me. What matters is that you learn how to stay alive while you're in this building, and how to keep everything else where it belongs. We don't have a manual, but we do have our stories. Each one holds a rule, and each rule has a reason. I'll give you both. You'll need to remember them. All of them. The house doesn't forgive mistakes, so pay attention. There's a lot we're going to cover, but we'll start with the basics. This first rule is simple. Rule 1. Keep the lights on. Every room in the building must be lit at all times. Hallways, prep rooms, bathrooms, storage areas, everywhere. Every single space. Even the ones you're not using. Especially the ones you're not using. You'll find the master switches near the front desk and in the basement utility panel. Both are labeled. The lights are hooked up to the main grid, but there's a separate generator in the tool shed behind the building. That generator is for the mortuary only. It's wired to cover every room. If the main power cuts out, it should kick back on automatically. If it doesn't, you'll have to go outside and start it manually. There's a crank panel on the left side and a red fuel drum next to it. The instructions are posted inside the shed door. Refill it weekly. Keep a funnel nearby. The reason for this rule is simple. Your main job at the mortuary is to clean and prepare the dead. That's what everyone expects. Families come in, make their arrangements, and leave. You wash the body, dress it, set it out for visitation, and eventually get it to burial or cremation. It's careful, detailed work, and people think that's all there is to it. But that's not the whole job. What nobody explains until you get here is that you're also in charge of identifying and responding to anomalies. Most people never see one, but you will. We call it rot. Rot isn't decomposition. Rot is a spiritual condition. It shows up on the body in ways that aren't natural. Sometimes it looks like burns. Sometimes it's lesions that don't follow any medical pattern. The skin might be intact, but the structure underneath will feel soft or hollow. The mouth might hang open wider than it should. The teeth might be too long. Sometimes the limbs bend in ways they shouldn't. There's a manual in the office that lists every anomaly we know how to recognize. The important thing to know now is that rot is what's left behind when a demon starts the process of possession, but doesn't finish. The person died before the possession was complete, which means the body is left in a kind of halfway state. And that halfway state is dangerous. It's your responsibility to detect it. If you spot rot, you log it immediately in the red ledger. There's one on the prep table and a backup copy on the shelf near the embalming cabinet. You don't use the computer for that. We keep digital records for everything else, but anomalies go on paper. That book gets scanned and mailed once a week to a contact in Rome. Once you log it, you have to contain it. That's where the rituals come in. For minor cases, you'll perform a cleansing on site. There's a set of supplies in the embalming drawer labeled clearance. Salt, oil, a candle, and a script. You'll memorize the steps. It takes 15 minutes if done correctly. For moderate cases, you add the prayer. That one's longer. You'll learn it in sections, and when in doubt, do both. For anything beyond that, if the signs are extreme, if the rot is spreading, or if the body moves, you call the number on the wall behind the desk. It rings through to a Vatican line. Someone will pick up, and you'll read them the information word for word. Don't try to explain, just say what you see. They'll send someone if it's serious. You'll stay with the body until they arrive. That's the procedure. Now back to the lights. Demons don't show their hand directly. They're subtle, especially in this stage. They hide their marks, and the easiest way for them to stay hidden is through low light. If the room isn't bright enough, you'll miss the signs. You might overlook a bruise that isn't a bruise, or a joint that looks fine until you touch it. In full light, you have a chance of catching it early. If the lights flicker or dim, check the bulb first. Sometimes it's just that. But if you replace it and the new bulb also dims, you move the body to another room and relight the entire area. You don't continue work in a space where the lighting can't be stabilized. You don't finish dressing the body. You don't resume until the issue is resolved. A possessed body, even one that's already dead, can still function as a spiritual conduit. That means if the signs go undetected and the body is released to the family, there's a chance the possession completes itself in a new host. That host, well, it might be a grieving spouse, a child, a caretaker, anyone who makes contact during a vulnerable moment. It doesn't happen often, but once is enough. The mortuary is the final checkpoint. We're the last step before the body leaves controlled space. That's why containment matters. A case of rot that slips through here can affect an entire home. And if the family tries to bury it, the consequences are worse. You might not hear about it right away, but it'll come back to us. This is why the light stays on. The things hiding in the dark stay away from brightly lit places. You remember the so-called boogeyman we were scared of as kids? The way we'd ask our parents to look under the bed or in the dark of the closet. Yeah? Kids notice more than adults do when it comes to the other side. They see things, and they sense things that the naked eye can't see. But what the kids see are real, and they're always prowling around looking for an opportunity. Demons and monsters, they're opportunists at heart. That's what we call a breach. There's no recovery once a breach starts. If the rot spreads and isn't contained, this building will begin to change. I've only seen it happen once, and we had to seal off half the prep wing. That section's still closed. We don't use it anymore. This is where it starts, with the lights. So that's your first rule. You keep them on, always. Don't worry about the electric bill. The Vatican takes care of that. Once you've got the lights sorted out, we move on to the next rule. Rule number 2. Follow protocols. This rule applies when things go wrong, and they will at some point. It's just the nature of the work. You'll be doing your job, thinking everything is going according to plan, and then something will shift. Sometimes the signs of rot appear gradually. The skin tightens, or the joints start to lock too early. Maybe the eyes don't close no matter how many times you try. Those cases are manageable. You follow the cleansing procedures, finish your work, and send the body out like normal. But sometimes it's more serious. If the body moves on its own, turns its head, opens its eyes, speaks in any way, you're dealing with an extreme case. At that point, the rot has advanced too far for simple cleansing. You follow the full procedure. No shortcuts. Start with salt. Always keep a jar in the prep room and another in the cooler. We use coarse salt, not fine grain. It holds energy better. If the body starts to animate in any way, you pour a full handful into its mouth. Don't worry about the teeth. Don't worry about the gums or the damage it might do. Just pour it in, close the jaw, and hold it shut with both hands. Next, do the same with the eyes. 1 pinch per eye. Pack it in firmly. The eyes don't need to be open. You can push the salt in through the eyelids if needed. The goal is to cut off access points. Possession requires entry. The mouth and eyes are the most direct. Once that's done, surround the body in a circle of salt. A full circle. Don't leave gaps. The floor should show a clear border around the table or stretcher. This step prevents the demon from reaching out. Even if there are other bodies in the room, this will block the spread. Demons can't possess the dead in full, but they can move through unprotected remains if the conditions are right. A circle of salt stops them from doing that. That's why it's important to move quickly, but carefully. Once the body is secured, check the hands. Turn each palm upward and inspect the skin between the base of the thumb and the wrist. Look for punctures. Sometimes they're clean. Other times they're ragged, like something tore its way through. If you see marks there, you're dealing with a second stage possession. Second stage is worse than basic rot. It means the demon has started mocking religious symbols, meant to strike fear and unease into the hearts of the workers handling the bodies. The body might start showing signs of mimicry, banging on doors, cupboards, or windows in patterns of 3, or making sounds that don't match the room. One of the most common is crying. If you hear a child crying and there's no child present,
Don't go looking for it. Don't open doors, don't check empty rooms. That sound is meant to draw you in. It's a lure. The best thing to do in that moment is confirm your surroundings, return to the body, and complete the next step of the protocol. Lock the body in containment. Each prep room has a metal container for secure storage. It's lined and reinforced. You'll find the key on a chain next to the light switch. Open the unit, place the body inside, and shut the door tight. The lock should catch on the first turn. Once it's sealed, salt the door, not just the handle. Line the threshold, top, bottom, and sides. When that's done, call the assigned priest. There's a contact list taped inside the main desk drawer. You'll find their names next to ours. They've been briefed on this location. They know the family name. They'll understand the situation without needing much detail. Just say, "This is a containment case. We've moved to second stage." Then give them the name of the deceased and the time of death. And stay on site until they arrive. When the priest begins the ritual, you remain in the room. You don't have to assist unless you're asked. You stand at the wall, say the prayers if you know them, and keep your hands in plain view. Your presence is what matters here. Demons use isolation as a means to corner and unease their victims. Sometimes it helps the priest just to have more people in the room. Some exorcisms last 20 minutes. Some take hours. The priest will tell you when it's done. Once it is, the room will feel still again. Your lungs will expand, and it'll feel like you can take a deep breath. You'll help them prepare the body for final rites. If it's damaged, and it usually is, you'll assist in basic restoration. Close the wounds if you can, set the face, repack the eyes. If the family asks about the injuries, you offer a soft explanation. Use words like fragile tissue, late-stage swelling, or post-mortem tearing. We care more about the exorcism than the aesthetics of the dead. Remember, saving the soul comes first. Always. Don't let the fear of a bad viewing stop you from doing what's necessary. If a body begins to move, it is no longer stable. If it speaks, it is no longer safe. The sooner you act, the less likely the damage will spread. That's why we follow protocol. This is the part of the job nobody likes to talk about. You'll learn the difference between a natural death and something else, not by sight, but by how it feels to be in the room. That instinct takes time to build. Until then, stick to the procedures. When in doubt, go back to the steps. Salt, contain, call, stay. If you follow protocol, you'll be fine. Probably. And that's all you need to know about that. This brings us to the third rule. Rule number 3. Respect Ruby. I mean that exactly as it sounds. You don't treat her like a pet, or give her commands unless you're trained to. You don't feed her table scraps, or try to dress her up in holiday sweaters. No matter how cute and fluffy Ruby is, she's still a hellhound, and your future partner. She doesn't belong to us. She belongs to whoever breeds and trains hellhounds, and I don't know who that is. I've never met him. I've never asked. From what I understand, they don't report to the church, and they don't follow human systems. They work in a different hierarchy, one that's older and probably more precise. When a hellhound arrives, it's because someone sent it. When it stays, it's because it has work to do. In our case, Ruby was sent to protect the people who work here. Hellhounds are tasked with 2 things. First, they guide or retrieve the dead. Second, they protect the living from spiritual interference when the dead are involved. In our line of work, that makes Ruby essential. Her job is to keep you safe. She's your companion. Yes, she'll walk beside you.
She'll rest her head on your knee when you're eating lunch. She'll sleep in the prep room if you're pulling an overnight shift. She's affectionate. But most of all, she's here to make sure you don't end up like the people you're working on. Ruby is deeply invested in you not dying. But more than that, in you not getting possessed by a demon. There are 3 stages of demonic possession. You'll need to know them. The first is oppression. That's when the demon targets something from the outside. They cause small, continuous distress, insomnia, irritability, feelings of worthlessness, shortness of breath, arguments that start for no reason, or accidents that keep happening at the worst times. The point is to wear the person down. Demons pick their targets based on stress. They don't go after happy people with stable lives. They look for grief, resentment, guilt, and fear. People who have experienced tragedy. People under pressure. People who are already close to the edge. That means us. Our work puts us at risk every day. We spend more time with the dead than the living. We keep odd hours. We clean bodies while the rest of the world is asleep. We see the results of pain, loss, and violence up close. Workers like us don't have a large support group or an active social life. That combination of stress and isolation makes us a prime target for the very things that we protect other people against. And that's where Ruby comes in. Just being near her helps. Her presence disrupts spiritual interference. It works like a barrier. You won't feel it directly, but if you pay attention, you'll notice that bad thoughts fade faster when she's close. Your focus sharpens. The building feels quieter. If you start to spiral, she'll nudge your leg or rest her chin on your arm. The second stage is obsession. This is where the demon focuses on the mind. It plants thoughts. It changes the way someone sees the world. It begins to infect the body from the inside out. That's when the rot starts. You already know what rot looks like on the dead. On the living, it's harder to spot. Sleep patterns change. Speech becomes erratic. The person isolates. They stop following routines. They don't remember things they used to know. You'll see it slowly. They'll start to ignore their duties. They'll say the lights don't matter. They'll avoid the prep room. They'll laugh at protocol. If you ever feel like that, stop what you're doing and find Ruby. She won't bark or growl or bite you. She'll just sit there and look at you. If she doesn't approach, you're already too far along. If she follows you, there's still time. Spend time with her. Follow her lead. The condition corrects itself in a few days to a few weeks, just as long as you hold on to your values, reasoning, and sanity. The third stage is possession. That's when the soul gives up and a demon takes over. You've already learned how to handle that when it happens to the dead. If it happens to the living, Ruby will not wait for you to act. She'll act on her own. And that's why it's so important to recognize the signs early. Ruby will warn you before anything appears to be wrong. She might sniff a body longer than usual. She might pace in a room that feels fine to you. She might grow still and stare at a space on the wall or behind a cabinet. She sees things we don't. She hears things we never will. And her sense of smell is better than any test we have. Dogs are naturally good at detecting illness. You ever see those documentaries where the dogs are trained to detect cancer through smell alone? Ruby's sense has been refined to pick up early signs of rot. She can identify it before it shows on the skin. If she won't let you approach a body, trust her. Don't second guess it. Mark the body for review and begin protocols. I have seen her wake up from a dead sleep because someone walked in with a body marked clean that wasn't.
I have seen her pace the hallway for hours before we found a structural fault that let in something we didn't want inside. I have seen her sit beside a worker for a full night just because he was going through something hard, and that made him vulnerable. She chooses what she does. Your job is to respect that. Feed her when she's hungry, walk her before dark, keep her water clean. If she follows you into the cooler and lays down beside a table, pay attention. That's her marking something. She won't move until the issue is resolved. If she stands by the front door and won't come in, do not open it. If she howls, get to her. She won't always make noise. Most of the time she's quiet. She patrols the halls. She watches the doorways and circles the viewing rooms before each service. She keeps her distance when families are grieving, or lays beside the wall when you're doing prep work. You'll start to notice that you feel steadier when she's around. Maybe all dogs do that. At least I think so. Just don't ever forget what she really is.
Rule 4. So by now you've seen what kind of work this is. The hours are strange, the routines are strict, the threats aren't always visible. Some of them don't even come from the outside, which brings us to the next rule. Rule number 4. Accept death as part of life. Most of all, as part of your life. This rule is different than the others. It's not about what to do when the lights go out or when a body moves. Or when Ruby sits in the hallway and refuses to budge. This one is about what you're agreeing to, not just in the day-to-day, but in the long term. There's something you need to understand before you choose to stay here. Everyone who works in this building and chooses to remain will die on their 50th birthday. It's the agreement we've made with those above and below. I don't know who brokered the deal. It predates me, and it predates my father. But it's always been the same. If you take on this work, if you accept the full responsibility of protecting the living from demonic influence and guiding the dead safely across the threshold, then your time becomes limited. The human soul was not built to endure long-term exposure to rot. We can protect ourselves. We can cleanse the space. We can keep the energy contained and the rituals sharp. But every time you touch a body that's been marked, something passes through you, a little at a time. Even with Ruby's help, even with every prayer spoken and every protocol followed, something gets in. If we didn't have the agreement, we wouldn't die, not in the normal sense. Without it, we would change. Over time, we'd begin to take on the same qualities we try to stop in others. We would twist into something we were never meant to become. Rot doesn't just live in flesh. It lives in what's left. And over enough years, even the strongest mind will start to bend under it. The agreement prevents that. It gives us a peaceful, controlled ending. At 50 years old, to the day, we pass. No suffering, no rot, no change. We go as ourselves, human, whole. You don't have to guess when it'll happen. You won't be surprised. You'll feel it in the weeks leading up to it. You'll finish your work, you'll say your goodbyes, and you'll go. My mother and father both passed that way. Same year, same age, only a few months apart. They knew the date their whole lives, and they never feared it. They worked here together until the very end. I remember the day my mom turned 50. She came down the stairs like it was any other morning. She brewed coffee. She read the mail. She gave me the warmest, tightest hug and told me to have a good day. I smiled and wished her happy birthday. Then she sat on the front porch with Ruby at her side. And that's where she passed, peacefully and finally at rest. My father followed not long after. They were buried side by side. The plot was already reserved, and the headstones were ready. Some people argue with it. Sure, they fight it. I've seen workers try to outrun it. They leave town, they change their names, but it finds them. That's part of the deal. Once you accept the work, you accept the end that comes with it. There's no escape. But there is peace in it. When you know the shape of your end, you stop fearing every corner. You stop wasting time. You do your work well. You care more, not less. You understand the cost, and you make your life matter while you have it. That's what I've chosen. I still have time. I'm not close to the deadline yet. But I won't live to old age, and I've been waking up with more grays in my hair than not. I won't retire in a cabin in the woods or move to a beach somewhere. I'll be buried in the same family plot as my parents. My headstone is already carved. It sits in the back of the storage room, wrapped in cloth. That's why I'm telling you this now. I want to give you a fair choice. If you choose to stay, you'll live a life of purpose. You'll know exactly what you're working toward. You'll understand every day that passes is part of something larger. You'll see things most people never will. You'll help families through the hardest moments of their lives. You'll keep this place stable. You'll fight back against the things that most people don't believe in or don't want to. You'll do good work. And when your time comes, you'll know it was worth it. But if that's not the life you want, I understand. You don't have to stay. You can walk away. You can forget all this. You can leave this town, change your number, never look back. If you want, you can live your life without any rules but your own. Maybe it'll be messy. Maybe it'll be uncertain, but it'll be yours. I won't stop you. But if you say yes, we keep going. We finish the training. We go over every rule. We run the rituals together. You'll do the prep work with me watching your hands. You'll say the words and I'll listen. You'll learn how to read the signs and time to act. You'll earn Ruby's trust. And when I go, this place will be yours. So that's the choice. I'll support whichever path you pick. But if you choose to stay, I need to hear you say it out loud. And once you do, we begin. I won't ask you today. Tomorrow, when the sun goes down, I'll ask your decision. But for now, there's work to do. And I think the body in room 4C just moved. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. Special thank you to all my patrons. If you'd like to become a supporter on Patreon, there's a link in the description. I hope you have a great night, and thanks for watching. My name is Rory, and I work at a junkyard. Not the kind with forklifts and uniforms and clipboards. This is the kind where you have to check for raccoons before you open the fridge. And by fridge, I mean the half-buried '89 whirlpool near the tire fire pit. I've been here about 8 months, long enough to know where the soft spots in the mud are, long enough to stop caring what's dripping from the top of the washing machine pile. Before this place, I didn't last anywhere for more than a few weeks. Diner jobs, warehouse gigs, stocking shelves at a place that sold fireworks and taxidermy under one roof. All of them at clocks. And I hate clocks. But this? Hauling scrap? Sorting brass from copper and trying to guess if a thing's valuable or just old and weird. That I can do.
No dress code, no real hours, and nobody bothers you out here.
Except Baker. Baker owns the place, or his family does.
He says it's been in their name since before the road got paved, which is not impressive. But he's alright. Big guy, loud shirts, always smells faintly like kerosene and old pennies. Spends most of his time poking around the far corners of the yard, looking for something he calls a score. Every time he finds something with a bit of rust and a story, he yells out, "Another man's trash." Then he waits for me to say the second part. "Is still trash," I reply. He laughs every time like it's new, and I think that's his way of trying to make this place feel like, I don't know, a kingdom instead of a pile. He's got a whole trailer full of stuff he's curating. Looks like a flea market threw up in there. Clocks that don't tick, fans with no blades, porcelain baby dolls with glassy little eyes. The junkyard's out past the town limits, where the woods start closing in, and nobody locks their doors because nobody really comes this way. The ground's uneven, and sometimes things go missing in the piles, or show up where they weren't before. Baker says it's raccoons. I say it's raccoons with a crowbar. Every second Sunday, this priest drives out here in a rickety old sedan, comes with holy water and a bucket, blesses the grounds, mutters a few words in Latin. Then he sits with Baker on the porch of the trailer, slipping something that's not communion wine. I asked once why he comes. Baker said, "Well, some places are magnets for the stuff folks don't want to carry anymore." Got my own cot in the back of the parts shed, little burner to make beans and coffee, and a radio that only plays local stations when the wind's just right. It's not much, but it's the longest I've ever stayed anywhere. So far, I've learned a lot about Baker and what he does with my time here. Baker's been running the place since his dad passed, but the junkyard's been in the family for a long time. He told me once it started as a dump site after the war. Folks didn't know what to do with old metal or broken machines, so they just dragged it out of here and left it. Eventually, people started dropping off everything else too. Cars, beds, TVs, even things like bathtubs and statues. Now it's a maze of piles, all stacked up with things people didn't want anymore. Some of it's worthless, but Baker swears there's good stuff if you know where to look. He thinks of himself like a prospector, always digging through rust to find something valuable underneath. He says you can tell a lot about a person by what they throw away. I don't know about that. I mostly just move stuff. My job is more basic. I haul things from one place to another, sort metal into the right bins, cut parts off broken cars, stack tires, clean up anything that might catch fire, and load or unload the truck when people drop things off. It's heavy work, but keeps my hands busy. Some days are slower than others, especially if it rains or the ground gets too soft. On those days, we fix up tools or rearrange the piles to make more room. People still come by sometimes, though not a lot. Mostly older guys looking for parts, or scrappers trying to make a few bucks. Sometimes weird people show up, folks with long coats or weird accents, asking for something unusual. Baker deals with them. I try not to look too close at the stuff they bring in or take out. There's a rule we don't touch the northwest corner of the yard. Baker just calls it the back lot. It's fenced off and overgrown with weeds. Every time I've asked him about it, he just says, "Family history." That's all. One time, I saw him go back there alone with a shovel, but he didn't say anything, and I didn't follow. Our setup's simple. Baker lives in the trailer at the center of the yard. It's got a porch, a radio, a couple of lawn chairs, and one of those tiki torches he thinks keeps bugs away. I sleep out back in the shed where we keep the parts. There's a cot,
a shelf, single bulb, and a curtain for a door. He pays me in cash at the end of every week and lets me keep whatever change I find in the junk. Once, I found a gold ring wedged inside an old couch. He let me keep it. I traded it for boots. Baker's all right. He talks a lot, especially when he's excited about something he found. He's always in a good mood, even when nothing goes right. Sometimes he brings me lunch from town. Sometimes we just sit and listen to the radio after work. He tells stories about things he's seen or people who used to live around here. I think most of it's made up, but I let him talk. Makes the place feel less quiet. I've got strange stories about this place. Not the kind Baker tells. His always end with a laugh or some lesson about trusting your gut. Mine are different. You want to hear one? Alright, this one's about my first day, and the plastic monkey that almost bit my hand off. Well, my first day at the junkyard started like you'd expect. Baker handed me a dented metal hook and told me to start digging through the third pile. That's the one behind the old bus near the tire stacks. He said if I found anything that looked like copper, brass, or old toys in good shape, to set them aside. Said he could maybe sell them to some antique lady in town who paid by the box. I didn't know what I was looking for, really. It was just a pile of furniture, busted radios, broken fans, dusty stuffed animals, and kitchen junk. But Baker seemed excited, and I needed the cash, so I went to work. About 20 minutes in, I spotted something strange poking out from under a ripped lawn chair and a pink toilet lid. It looked like part of a little monkey. I pulled it out and brushed it off. It was one of those wind-up toys, an old monkey in a red vest with little brass cymbals in its hands. Its fur was matted and one eye was cracked, but it still looked intact mostly. I remembered seeing something like it once when I was a kid. I'd caught a bit of Phantom of the Opera on a fuzzy TV at the orphanage, and there was a monkey just like it on stage. It was part of the story somehow, I think. I remember thinking it was kind of cool. Creepy, sure, but cool. So I held it up and called out, "Hey, Baker, this worth anything?" He looked up from the trailer porch, squinted, and said, "Oh, maybe. Bring it over." I didn't even get halfway across the yard. As I was walking, I felt something twitch. At first, I thought I imagined it, like when your grip slips. But then the monkey's arms jerked once. Just a quick little clack of the cymbals. I froze. It hadn't been wound up. Then it did it again. The cymbals clashed once more, louder this time, and its head turned a few inches toward me. I let go, but it didn't drop. It was still hanging from my hand like it latched on somehow. Then I saw its little fingers curl tighter around mine. Baker, this thing's..." The monkey's mouth opened with a little click, and its teeth, way too sharp for a toy, snapped down fast right in my hand. I jerked back, but not in time. It caught the side of my index, and I felt a sharp pinch, like it was trying to tear the whole thing off. "Holy hell," I said, shaking my hand like crazy. The thing was hanging on, clacking its cymbals over and over like it was excited. I slammed it against the side of an old freezer, but it didn't let go. Then Baker came running, holding a silver thermos in one hand and a wooden spoon in the other. "Move," he said. I ducked, and Baker popped the lid off the thermos and flung water right onto the monkey. The thing screeched, not like an animal, more like when you pull open a rusty drawer, and dropped off my hand. It flopped onto the gravel and twitched for a second, then went completely still. Its arms locked up mid-cymbal. I looked at my hand.
There was a small puncture near my knuckle and a thin line of blood. Nothing broken, but it still stung. "What the hell was that?" I said, wiping my hand on my jeans. Baker shook the thermos, then leaned over and poured more water on the toy.
"Symbol monkey. These damn things show up sometimes. Must have slipped through last Sunday. Guess the priest missed that one."
"Wait, what was in that?" I asked, pointing to his thermos.
"Holy water. You'll want to keep some nearby, especially when digging through personal items. Dead folks don't always let go of their stuff. Toys are the worst. Dolls, puppets, musical crap. They pick up energy, especially when the person dies angry or alone," he explained.
I blinked at him. "You're saying this place has cursed toys?"
"Well, some. Not all of them, obviously. Enough that we don't joke around with anything that plays music. If it moves on its own, don't keep it. Don't sell it. Don't put it near your sleeping space," he said.
He looked at me for a long second.
"You still want the job?" he asked.
I glanced at my hand, then at the pile I'd been sorting, then at the monkey, still frozen mid-clang. It hadn't moved again, but I was not about to test it. "Well, it's more exciting than stocking shelves," I said. Baker laughed.
"You'll fit right in."
And that was my first day. That monkey wasn't the last weird thing I saw. Not even close. After the first day, I started paying more attention. Not just to the stuff people brought in, but to the yard itself. Sometimes things felt off, like the layout changed when I wasn't looking, or a path I'd taken yesterday wasn't there the next morning. A few weeks later, I found something. A giant hole, right in the middle of the junkyard. The hole showed up sometime in late April. I didn't notice it right away. To be fair, the middle of the yard's always cluttered. It's where we keep the unsorted stuff. Bigger piles of scrap metal, busted washing machines, lawn mowers, furniture without legs, you know? If you're not careful, you can lose track of what's solid ground and what's just a hollow gap between broken things. But this was different. It was a perfect circle, about 6 feet across. No marks around the edge. No signs that something had fallen in. Just a clean, dark hole in the dirt, right where the sun hits around noon. I only spotted it because a wheelbarrow tipped over near it while I was hauling a broken car door. Figured I'd push a few things aside to flatten the ground, and that's when I saw it. "Hey, Baker, you know about this?" I called, standing a few feet back. He walked over slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. He didn't look surprised, just annoyed, like someone seeing the same leak in a roof again.
"Yeah, that one's new," he said.
"New? You mean there's others?" He nodded.
"Yeah, every few years one opens up. Never in the same spot."
I crouched down and tossed a small washer in. I never heard it hit bottom. "How deep is it?" I asked.
"Oh, too deep. Don't throw stuff in. That just brings them faster."
I stood back up. "Them?" I asked. He didn't answer at first. He just looked at the hole like it personally offended him. Then he said,
"We call them parasites."
I thought he was joking. "Parasites. That sounds like something from a bad movie," I said. He gave me a look.
"They come out at night. Not every night. Just when it's warm and something in the pile starts to rot." You'll smell it. When you do, you sit up in the tower with the floodlight and the rifle. You shoot on sight.
That made me blink. Hold on. There's a tower, a rifle? He pointed toward a wooden watchtower I'd never noticed before, hidden behind the stacked fridges. It had a spotlight rigged on top and a tarp nailed over the side to block wind.
Yeah, I'll show you the setup tonight. You're on rotation now.
Rotation for what? I asked.
Guard duty,
he replied. Didn't make much sense at the time, but I didn't argue. Later that evening, just after dinner, Baker handed me a hunting rifle and a little box of holy water vials.
All right, well, bullets slow 'em down. Holy water keeps 'em dead, he said.
We climbed the watchtower as the sun went down. From on top, I could see the whole yard, twisted piles of junk stretching out in all directions. And in the center, the perfect black hole.
Don't shine the light on it unless you hear something. They don't like light. But if you keep it on too long, they'll learn to move around it, he explained.
We sat in silence for a long time. Crickets made noise in the woods, and the wind knocked something loose near the fence line. Baker just sat on a folding chair and chewed sunflower seeds, spitting them into a cup. I held the rifle, trying not to think too much. Then around midnight, we heard it. Not loud, just a scratching sound, like something with too many limbs trying to climb out of something narrow. Baker didn't move. He just nudged the spotlight.
Wait,
he said. The sound stopped. And then came the smell, like meat left in a sealed cooler during the summer.
Now,
he said. I turned on the spotlight. The thing crawling out of the hole didn't look real. It was pale, with skin like boiled leather. It had no eyes that I could see, just a wide, splitting jaw that opened at the sides, revealing rows of teeth like a leech. It made no noise. It just stood there, smelling the air. I fired once. The bullet knocked it sideways, but it didn't fall. It staggered, then turned toward the light. Baker tossed me a vial and told me to throw it. I pulled the cap and flung it, and the water hit the thing in the side. That's when it screamed. The sound made my teeth hurt. The creature flailed, then collapsed into itself, folding like it was being crushed from the inside. After a few seconds, it stopped moving completely. Baker stood up, brushing off his hands.
All right, that's one. Might be another tonight. They travel in pairs sometimes.
I stared at him. How long has this been going on? He shrugged.
Oh, long as I've been alive. Longer, probably. My dad used to handle it before me. His dad before him. Every town has something like this, if you know where to look. Most just don't talk about it.
And junkyards are where these holes show up? I asked.
Oh, mostly. They show up in places that hold things. Places where objects sit and soak up human energy. Pain, anger, grief. Junkyards, storage units, antique shops. Graveyards sometimes. But junkyards are best. They're already fenced in, already watched, and no one asks questions.
I looked at the rifle in my lap.
"So this is a security job?" I asked. He laughed once.
"More or less."
"It feels like something the military should be handling," I said. He leaned on the railing.
"Oh, maybe in bigger cities. Round here, the townsfolk you grow up with, they're all you've got. Nobody's coming to save us, so we do it ourselves."
He said it like it was just part of life, like mowing grass or taking out the trash. I looked back down at the yard. The hole was quiet again. Nothing moved. I thought about the monkey, about the way that thing had gripped my hand like it hated me personally. And now these things, these parasites. "Do they ever get out?" I asked.
"Oh, sometimes. Not often. That's why we stay on it," he replied.
He slapped me on the shoulder.
"Welcome to the real job, Rory."
After the thing that came out of the hole, I thought I'd seen the weirdest the junkyard had to offer. I was wrong. The next strange thing I saw came on a quiet morning. It rained the night before, so the ground was soft and slick. I was dragging out some metal siding that'd gotten buried under a half-collapsed piano, trying not to lose my boots in the mud. The yard was quiet, except for the distant sounds of birds and a busted wind chime hanging off a bent pole. And that's when I started noticing the cats. They weren't stray cats exactly. They didn't look sick or skinny like regular strays. These were clean, quiet, and fast. First I thought maybe they were feral, but they weren't scared of people. They'd show up in the junkyard without warning, walk across the piles like they knew exactly where they were going, and disappear again like nothing had happened. Baker didn't say anything about him at first, so I didn't either. But then one afternoon, I saw something I couldn't explain. It was just after lunch. I was organizing old chairs near the back fence, close to where we keep the broken garden statues and lawn gnomes. There was this rocking chair I'd been trying to fix up. Something about it looked like it might sell if cleaned up. The paint was chipped, but the wood was good underneath. Anyway, I turned around to grab a hammer, and when I looked up, there was an orange tabby cat sitting right on top of the chair. I hadn't heard it approach. It didn't meow or move. It just sat there, looking at something I couldn't see. And that's when I noticed the backpack. It was red, bright red. Didn't look like it was strapped on with anything. It just sat snugly across the cat's shoulders like it belonged there. It had a flap, and I swear, I saw it moving just a little, like something inside was shifting around. Then the air around the chair got cold. Not the wind, just the space around the chair itself. It was like a chill settled right over it, and the cat's tail started to twitch. And then I saw it. It wasn't a person exactly, more like a shimmer in the shape of one. A woman. She looked old. Her dress looked like something from the 50s. Her hands reached out slowly, like she didn't know where she was. The closer she got to the chair, the more her shape came together. She sat down, right into the chair. The cat didn't move. It just waited, tail flicking. Then the red flap on the backpack popped open. I didn't see exactly what came out. It was more like a light, a soft one, the kind you see when you close your eyes and face the sun. It came from the flap, and it wrapped around the woman like a net made of light. She didn't struggle. She looked up at the cat, smiled, and then vanished. Just like that. Gone? The light pulled itself back into the backpack, and the flap closed on its own. The cat gave a single loud purr, a real one this time, then hopped down from the chair, landed like it weighed nothing, and trotted off into the junkyard like it had someplace to be. I didn't move. I just stood there with the hammer in my hand, trying to figure out what I'd just seen. Eventually, I walked back to the trailer. Baker was on the porch drinking iced tea out of a big red plastic cup. I sat down on the steps and said, "Hey, so why do the cats wear red backpacks?" He didn't even blink.
Oh, you saw one do a pickup.
A what?
A collection. They come for spirits that follow sentimental junk. Happens sometimes. A widow drops off her husband's chair. Some kid dumps a box of toys from his dead brother. People think they're throwing away objects, but they're not. Sometimes the spirits get stuck. Sentimentality and nostalgia are powerful emotions, you know, he said, taking a sip.
And the cats? I asked.
Work for the Grim Reaper,
He began.
Yep, that guy. Don't ask me how it works. I just know what I've seen.
He pointed at my hammer.
Yeah, some spirits go easy, some don't. That's why they send cats.
I blinked. Cats fight ghosts?
Oh, they don't fight. They collect. Each cat has a job. Some chase down runaways, some sneak into attics and pull out the confused ones. Some, like the one you saw, come to peaceful spots where the spirit is already halfway gone. All kinds of cats, tabbies, Siameses. Even saw a bobcat once, dragging a Civil War guy out of a wagon wheel.
I couldn't help but ask, why the red backpacks? Did they all wear red backpacks?
He nodded. Yeah, that's how you know they're official. Red backpack. Never says a word, just does the job and moves on.
I sat there for a while, thinking about that light. It was hard to imagine death hiring feline assistants to help with the afterlife logistics. Okay, so the cats aren't the weirdest part of this place, I said. Baker laughed.
Not even close.
He tossed me a bottle of cold water from the cooler.
You get used to the weird stuff. You see enough of it, just becomes background noise. Ohio's full of strange places. Most folks just keep their heads down and pretend not to notice. But we notice. And we make sure the right things go where they're supposed to.
I watched the edge of the yard for a while. I thought I saw the orange tabby again, just for a second, before it disappeared into a pile of refrigerators. Baker leaned back in his chair and said,
You'll probably see more of them now that they know you're aware. They like people who pay attention.
I didn't know if that was a good or a bad thing. I just nodded. And from then on, I started keeping an eye out. I'd see a set of ears sticking up behind a broken microwave, or a red strap slipping through a stack of tires. Sometimes I'd find paw prints where no cat should have been able to climb. And every now and then, a chair would rock by itself. A record would spin once before stopping. A toy would light up for just a second. Then a cat would show up. And the rest would go quiet. After I saw enough of those cats, I stopped trying to make sense of what counted as normal around here. Nothing really followed rules. If ghosts could hitch a ride on stuffed animals, and a tabby could carry souls in a backpack, then what else was I supposed to expect? Baker didn't act surprised about any of it. So eventually I didn't either. The junkyard had its own logic, and if I wanted to keep my job and stay alive, I had to learn it fast. And that's when I found out about the corpse flowers. Not flowers in the usual sense. These were taller than a man, with a smell that could knock you flat and petals big enough to close around a truck tire. They weren't here for decoration. They were planted with purpose. And it became my job to feed them, which, as it turns out, is even more dangerous than it sounded. I didn't know anything about corpse flowers until Baker handed me a bucket full of meat. The meat was old. Some of it came from the town butcher, scraps that weren't good enough to sell. Some of it came from dead parasites, their limbs chopped into pieces and left to rot for a few days until they smelled just right. I didn't ask questions about where the rest came from. I just took the bucket, held it at arm's length, and followed Baker across the yard. The corpse flowers were planted in a wide ring around the center piles near the hole. They didn't look like regular plants. Each one had a thick stalk like a tree trunk and petals as long as my arm. The petals were purple and green, with black edges that looked burnt. When the flowers were fully open, they stood taller than me. Some were nearly 6 feet high. And the first thing I noticed was the smell. Wasn't like anything I'd ever smelled before. It was sharp, sweet, rotting. Not just gross, it was confusing. Made my head feel light, like I'd skipped a meal and spun around in circles. I had to steady myself on a busted lawnmower just to keep from falling over. Baker had warned me ahead of time. He said the flowers give off a smell when they're hungry. It's how they lure things in. The scent affects people and parasites the same way. If you get too close when they haven't eaten, you might pass out. And if you pass out, you might not wake up. I stayed back. Baker showed me how to toss the meat without stepping too close. You aim for the base of the flower, right where the petals curl open. When the meat hits the center, the flower reacts almost immediately. The petals twitch, then fold inward like a slow trap, pulling the food inside. He said not to worry if I hear chewing sounds, that's normal. He also said if the flower makes a sound like a burp, that means it's satisfied. I thought he was joking. But then I heard it myself. A short, wet belch after the third flower got its share. That was the beginning of my new chore. Every other day, I go around the yard with 2 buckets and feed the flowers. They're not everywhere, just in certain places where the parasites tend to crawl. The flowers act as a second line of defense. If I miss something, or the tower light's too slow, the flowers are there to catch what I can't. I've seen it happen once. One night, I was on watch again. The smell came first, then the movement. A parasite climbed halfway out of the hole before I could get the spotlight on it. I reached for the rifle, but then something else moved faster. One of the corpse flowers near the edge of the pit leaned in. I didn't know they could move like that. It stretched forward on its thick stalk, petals wide open. The parasite didn't even look up in time. The flower snapped shut like a bear trap. There was no sound at first, just a hard slap as the petals closed. Then came the squelch. It was loud. I don't need to describe it. I think you can guess. It was disgusting, but also kind of amazing. The next morning, all that was left was a thin line of slime on the ground and a round seed lying nearby. The seeds are almost the size of a peach, shaped like tiny skulls. They're heavy and hard, like someone carved them from bone. I collect them in a separate bin in the shed. Baker says they don't sprout unless planted on top of monster remains. That's why the flowers only grow near the hole or the burn pit. They need the right kind of meat to grow. Once a flower is planted, it grows fast. Within a few weeks, the stalks shoot up and start to bloom. At full size, they stay active for about a year before collapsing in on themselves and rotting away. When that happens, we burn the remains and plant a new one using one of the seeds. It's a cycle. Ugly, but useful. I've learned to respect them. The flowers don't like being touched. I found that out the hard way when I tripped and my hand brushed one of the petals. It wasn't feeding time, but the smell was still strong. My vision went blurry, and I had to crawl back to the trailer to clear my head. I spent the rest of the day with my head in a bucket. And since then, I stay a safe distance. I use a long-handled scoop to toss the meat. I wear gloves and keep a cloth around my nose. If the flowers start smelling worse than usual, I know I'm behind schedule. They don't speak or move much, but they're smart in their own way. They remember patterns. If you feed them regularly, they stay calm. If you skip a day, they notice. They're not pets. Well, they're not plants either, exactly. They're more like tools. Dangerous, living tools that protect the yard when bullets and holy water aren't enough. Sometimes I wonder where they came from. Who figured out they could eat monsters, you know? Did someone try planting one in a city once? What happened to that city? But those are questions that don't get answered out here. You just learn to do the work. Now, feeding the corpse flowers is just part of my routine, same as checking the fence line or sharpening the blades. The flowers have their place. They do their job. And as long as I do mine, we don't have a problem. You know, I still can't believe what I'm saying most days. But that's the thing about this place. You don't have to believe it for it to be real. And yeah, that's all the stories I got for now. Didn't mean to stay here this long. When I first showed up, I thought it'd be like every other job I've had, you know, a few weeks of hauling junk, maybe a weird story or two. Then I'd be back on the road, bag packed, no goodbyes. But this place gets under your skin in a strange way. Maybe it's the things I've seen. Parasites crawling out of holes like they're late for something. Corpse flowers saving my life like it's just part of their job. And cats working part-time for the Grim Reaper. I still don't understand any of it. Not really. I just know it all fits together somehow. Maybe that's what keeps me here. There's mystery in the junk. Wonder, too. You start realizing that not everything forgotten is worthless. Some things are just waiting to be seen again. Some things come back with teeth, sure, but others come back with stories. And then there's Baker, this weird little job, and the town that leaves us alone, but still shows up when it matters. I didn't come here looking for a place to belong, but maybe I found one anyway. This job's not on any map. There's no website, no office, no paperwork, but it's real. And I'm part of it now. A junkyard full of monsters, cursed antiques, and too many secrets to count. And somehow I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. So yeah, I think I'll be staying.